Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of August 12, 2019 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the Township Clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at Mayor and Council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. Could everyone please stand and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Roll call.
Councilman Bruno? Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Cumming?
Here.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. Let the record reflect also in attendance Mayor Peter Calamari, Township Administrator Robert Tovo, Township Attorney Kenneth Poller, CFO Judy Curran, and Township Clerk Susan Witkowski. Mr. Mayor, the Police Department promotions, please.
Yes, thank you. Everyone hear me? Yes. Hello? Good. Thank you all for coming. This is great to show our support for the 3 officers who are being promoted this evening. And, for some of them, been a long time coming. For some, relatively new, making it kind of quick. Before we start, I'd just like to give a shout out to Officer Tom Lawton, who retired a couple of months ago. We thank him for his service, and we hope to honor him at an upcoming council meeting. So with that being said, want us to go high to low, low to high?
Low to high.
Low to high.
You missed that note. Sergeant Rydell asked politely, so.
It's up to you. Yeah. Sure. Go ahead. Yeah. Who's gonna?
Still on this side?
Yes. They're just gonna read his bio.
Good evening. We're just going to, when we promote our officers, we'd like to, for those of you that don't know the officers being promoted, we'd like to get to know them a little bit better. So let's do that. So Pete's being sworn in tonight, and actually this is a promotion. We recently hired Pete as a special law enforcement officer 2, SLEO 2. He very quickly impressed us, as well as impressing the entire Washington school crowd. We got more emails from moms than any police officer in history. Probably doesn't hurt that he's a big, good-looking kid too, either, right? So, I also want to, from the bottom of my heart, I want to congratulate my colleagues, Corporal Jason Guger, who will be promoted tonight, and Sergeant Steve Rydell. If you haven't noticed, the Rydells have started their own police department. They're all over there. But it's, listen, I grew up with these guys, coached them in football. It's such a pleasure to see Steve making it tonight, and to see all of his nephews here, and our other brothers and sisters in law enforcement. So without further ado, Pete is a Pascack Valley resident, and he attended Westwood Regional High School, much like all of us did. He studied criminal justice at Bergen Community College, and then he became a SLEO 1, a Special Law Enforcement Officer 1 in Lavallette, New Jersey. When the summer was over, he was quickly picked up by Demarest, who saw something in Pete and trained him from going from a Special 1 to a Special 2, which was good for us at the time. We were looking for SLEO 2s. Pete also went to the Bergen County Fire Academy, served some time on the Demarest Police Fire Department, and now he also serves in his hometown of Westwood on the police department. So like I said, we hired Pete to do traffic at Washington School, and he excelled at it. When Pete wasn't doing traffic, we had him out on the road as a SLEO 2, pretty much doing everything that police officers do, and he excelled at that. I have a saying, and John will back me up on this, that you can train anybody to be a police officer, but to be a cop, you got to have something inside. You got to have it in you, and Pete has that. And we're very happy to see that his father, Peter Vereb Sr., detective and firearms instructor, also taught Pete how to shoot very well. So Pete has those intangibles. So we're very proud tonight to swear him as a police officer, but we're also very proud that we know we're going to watch him to grow up and to be a great cop for this police department. So without further ado, we'll swear in Police Officer Peter Vereb.
I, Peter Vereb,
I, Peter Vereb,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I do solemnly swear
and that I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of
all the duties of police officer
in the Township of Washington,
in the Township of
in
Washington,
the County of
in
Bergen,
the County of Bergen,
in the State of New
in
Jersey,
the State of New Jersey,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay, so now we have Jason Guger, and it looks like John's going to read his bio.
All right, obviously, we're all here to honor three great officers, and I asked Jason for the opportunity to read his bio because I'm not only fortunate to have him as a coworker, to call him a brother officer, but I'm blessed and honored to call him a friend. So Corporal Jason Guger is a lifelong resident of the township. He resides in the township with his wife, Heather, and his two daughters, Regan and Jordan. Corporal Guger graduated New Jersey City University and holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Corporal Guger has served on the Township Fire Department for 22 years, is a past chief, and is currently the battalion chief. In this capacity, he follows in the proud footsteps of his father Rick and his uncle Jeff. He's also a member of the executive board for Pascack Valley PBA Local 206. Corporal Guger is a 17-year veteran of the Township Police Force, having been hired in January of 2002. His primary assignment is to the Patrol Division, where he serves as a field training officer and active shooter instructor. Jason is certified as an instructor for the prevention of and response to suicide bombing incidents from New Mexico Tech. He is also assigned to the Detective Bureau, where I'm privileged to be his supervisor. There he functions with distinction. He is an evidence officer, Megan's law officer, and humane law enforcement officer. In his career, Jason has been involved in more than his share of critical incidents and dangerous calls. One such incident took place back in March of 2011 with Sergeant Michael Glock, also of the Township Police Department. As a result of their highly credible actions and heroism that night, they both received the highest award that the New Jersey PBA can bestow, the Medal of Honor. The definition of this honor is an outstanding act in the line of duty with imminent personal hazard to life with knowledge of the risks involved. Jason is a source of pride and credit to the township, his family, his department, and his profession, and I'm proud and honored to congratulate him on his promotion to corporal.
I, Jason Guger,
I, Jason Guger,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the
of
Constitution
the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I do solemnly swear
and that I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of
all the duties of corporal
in the Township of Washington,
in the Township of
in the
Washington,
County of Bergen,
in the County of Bergen,
in the State of New Jersey,
in the State of New Jersey,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Now it looks like we have the Chief of Police who will be honored to read Sergeant Steve. Okay, I'll repeat. I'm honored to be standing next to the Chief who will read Sergeant Steve Rydell's bio.
Steve, come on up. Hi, Sergeant Steve Rydell is a lifelong resident of Washington Township. He resides with his wife Kelly, son Stephen, and daughter Megan. Steve has a long history of law enforcement in the family, from his family over there. Has been since he started their own police department. Steve enlisted in the United States Navy in 1984 with an active duty with air survival equipment operator. Steve was also a member of the Washington Township Veterans of Foreign Wars, posted with 6192, and a past member of the Washington Township Fire Department. He's currently a patrol supervisor, serves as a firearms instructor, investigator, and assists in the 1033 program. For you who don't know what that is, we get military equipment for free, the Hummer, lights, etc. like that. Steve is also a recipient of the PVA Award citation for invaluable contributions to critical incidents. He's also, for the past 19 years, been the recipient from the Mothers Against Drunk Driving for the most active, aggressive officer for DWI arrest. That alone in itself makes this town a very, very safe place for Steve's actions. I'm proud to call Steve my friend, and he deserves this promotion many years ago. Steve?
I, Stephen Rydell,
I, Stephen Rydell,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of
and the Constitution of
the State of New Jersey,
the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United
in
States
the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people.
and I do solemnly
And
swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform sergeant
all the duties of
all the duties of sergeant
Faster than I am. In the Township of Washington,
in the Township of Washington,
in the County of Bergen,
in the County of Bergen,
in the State of New Jersey,
in the State of New Jersey,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
All right, for you guys that don't know me, I'm Big Steve's son. I just want to say a few things on behalf of our family. All right, here we go. I was very lucky to have been born and raised in a military and police family. These multiple people in my life have shaped the way that I live. But one person specifically has influenced me the most is my father. My father served in the United States Navy, and during his 4 years there earned veteran status. And when he returned home, he decided that he was not done serving our country or community. He entered the police academy when he was 36 years old, and against all odds finished in the top tier of his class. He was hired onto the Township of Washington Police Department, and he's been serving in the force for over 20 years. My father is a very motivated man. He does whatever it takes to support his family. He takes on one other job on top of his job as a police officer just to make sure his wife and children are taken care of. And yet, I never heard him complain one day about what he does for us. I often find him looking himself in the mirror or self-reflecting on his day when he gets home and asking himself how he can get better as an officer. He has taught me many lessons that I will never be able to repay him back for. I watched him growing up take part in many community policing events. Growing up, I did not understand the value of taking part in these events, but as an 18-year-old today, I do. He showed me at a young age that being a police officer isn't all about writing the tickets and the arrests, but participating in the dare events, as we all know when we were young, and meeting with the younger kids and educating the younger generation. And at the same time, meeting with their parents and also educating them on the dangers their kids may be facing today. I look up to my father for how he committed himself to his community, and that is what pushed me to commit myself to the community as well. I thank my father for everything that he does for our family/community every day. I believe if I read this letter, he would truly understand how much he has affected my life by instilling these characteristics in me. He puts his life on the line every day that he puts the uniform on. I couldn't be more thankful and proud for him to be my father.
I just like Jason, just want to say thank you for my home support group. Without them, I would probably be here, but I may not be sergeant. So for the two women in my life, I just want to. University of New York in Portland, playing football and majoring in criminology. I'm proud to present him his new football helmet that was given to me by an alumni, which I have to give back. He gets his on Wednesday. I'm very proud of him.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you'd like to stay and listen to bond ordinances and other things, you're more than welcome to stay.
Are you serious?
If not, have a great night. It's a beautiful night out there. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, good luck, huh? Good luck.
Sarkin every day, right?
What's that?
You don't become Sarkin every day.
I saw Janet's car out there. I parked behind it. I didn't see her.
Going back to the August 12, 2019 presentation of the 2018 audit. Lou, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to come before the council and discuss the audit. I will start off with all of the officials in town were very cooperative and allow us to do our job. And there really isn't any great things in here that you really need to be concerned with. We do have some findings and such that we will talk about. And we've discussed all of those with the mayor and management prior to issuing a report. And so I believe some of them have already been implemented.
Can you move the mic closer to you, Lou?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Colleen, can you put it? Yeah,
Okay. And as your plan has been, your surplus has, hang on one second, I just got to turn the page, has gone down a little bit, but I know that's been the plan, to use up some of the money that's been accumulated over years. And with a long-term plan, long-term capital plan, which you're implementing tonight as part of the overall, and this bond sale, it's moving the township in the direction that the council and the mayor have decided to do. If you'd like, I would skip down to the part that most people are always interested in, is I should also say that your collection percentage is still very excellent, and I mean, that's really a key factor in the township. Your collection percentage last year was 99.15, and in 2017 was 99.08. Your, did I do the fund balance? What's the next page? And in 2018, you used 36% of the fund balance. Oh, you're going to be using 36% of the fund balance in 2019. Of the 2017, you used 41%. So you're still on your trajectory to exactly where you want to be, so which is the key. We should probably talk about the comments and recommendations, because that's always of concern. The one thing that everybody always wants to know is of the prior year comments, they're all resolved, and the one that, except for number 2 from last year, and that was partially resolved. So, I mean, that shows improvement. Now you actually have a full-time staff now, which is a key component to a whole bunch of these things. And so let me just run through them, and please, if you have questions anywhere along the line, or if there's something else you want to talk about regarding the financial statements, I'll be happy to. The first one, which is the general ledger and subsidiary ledger for tax overpayments, does not agree. It takes a while to get these things together. Now that you have a full-time tax collector and a full-time CFO, I think a lot of these things will go by the by.
Can I ask, if I could ask you or Judy Curran, our CFO, there was work done at the end of the year regarding tax reconciliations. I believe it was done by an outside firm. Would that have been covered by this particular comment? And does this particular comment indicate that that reconciliation was either incomplete or not done correctly?
I didn't order it.
Okay, so
Colleen, why don't you slide it the other way and put it, yeah, there you go.
The reconciliations that were done by the other firm, I did see their work. It seemed to have been a computer glitch. There was something hung up in the system that occurred with a change on a tax assessment. A property name was changed or subdivided. That wasn't reconciled to it. And the records that the other firm reconciled was more the, not the overpayment list so much as it was just your tax receivables.
The receivable list more. They didn't focus necessarily on overpayments. They focused more on receivables.
And do you know the
reconciling difference, how much it was?
It was small, wasn't
It was small. The information was given to both Judy and your tax collector for them to correct. And I believe it's been implemented and it's been corrected in the system.
Judy, do we know if
Yes.
that's in fact the case? Okay, thank you.
The fixed assets comment's been back and forth for several years, as you know. There's no detailed listing of fixed assets and the current year additions and deletions that reconcile to the financial statements. Basically, it wasn't really a focus item this year in town. So it doesn't, now, here's what the real issue is going to be with respect to that. Ultimately, what's going to happen is you're going to wind up probably, based upon our conversations, you're going to wind up hiring an outside firm to come in and do another fixed asset inventory. The numbers they're going to give you are not going to agree to much of anything, because what they do is they say you have a building, that building is worth about, and that's what they put it on the books for. Sometimes they look at some of the current items so that they can pick up, since you're doing some new things now, they might look at that. But most of the times they have a formula with depreciation and all this other stuff in, and that's how they come up with the number. That does pose a little bit of a problem because you're, according to government accounting standards, you're supposed to use what you paid for it. It'll cause, once it's done, it'll cause you one more comment, and then it'll just be a number so you can actually focus on what you have. That's fixed assets doesn't, the important part about fixed assets for a municipality, in my mind, is that you want to know what you have, that you're insuring what you have, that you're not insuring what you don't have, and that by having a detailed list of your fixed assets, you can continue your plan for the future, because you know if you have a 15-year-old fire truck, you're going to be doing something with it in 5 years, okay, or sooner maybe. Or if you have a plow, you know they only last. So that's the important part of having fixed assets in municipality. It's not so you can really worry about, because it doesn't affect your bottom line.
It's an inventory list.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
We have 4 dump trucks we bought in 2009, and that's it.
Yeah, you know, they
We're
normally
not
have.
insuring 5 dump trucks.
Right. I mean, so that's really the important part of it. There just has to be a number in your financial statements that at least you can say, there's the number. So that's the big deal there.
So while I've been on the council, and I think it's within the last 2 years, engaged an outside firm to do a fixed assets inventory. So I guess my question is, if we have spent money to have an outside firm come in and do that inventory, and there is an assumption at the end of that process that the inventory either reconciles to the ledger or there are known differences, and we don't keep it current, we're really just throwing away our money. So I guess my question is, do we have a process when we purchase a fixed asset to add it to the books, or to, as we retire, do we have a process to delete them from the books?
Can I answer that?
Yes, if you don't mind.
I'd like to take that on, actually be doing that going forward. And as far as reconcile to general ledger, I believe that the auditors actually did see our general ledger. I don't know whom, but someone entered a lot of numbers that were just way off base. And they all need to be fixed.
Okay.
But to partially answer your question, yes, it's easy, because in the Edmunds system, when you purchase things that are fixed assets, there's a little key you can check, and that'll produce a list for you.
Okay.
hadn't been really activated.
All right.
Just getting back to Judy's comment now, you say there was numbers entered that you believe are off?
Oh, yes, big time.
Okay, and, you know, that troubles me. You know, we're talking about ledgers and, you know, not fixing the books, but evening them out so we know what we have and what we don't have. When you tell me numbers are way off, I'd like to know why those numbers are way off. That's a concern, I think, to everyone on this.
Well, I don't know who entered them, but I know, I think I even did show Colleen, like land was off, a couple of the buildings, they were off, right, when I showed them to you? I don't know who entered them a couple of years back, I guess.
Is there a paper trail who enters these numbers?
I could try to find out for you if you'd like.
I would like that, because that concerns me. Why bother putting the number in if it's not accurate? You know, accuracy is important.
I agree.
You know, so if you could do that, Judy, that would be fantastic.
Sure.
Thank you. That concerns me.
Part of that issue,
Mhm.
part of that issue is I don't know who made whatever entries. Remember when I told you when they were doing when you hire an outside agency to do your inventory, they come up their guesstimate.
Right, right.
The number that's probably on the books was the guesstimate from the last time you did it. So now you're gonna have your
More
latest guesstimate is a different guesstimate than what's on there now.
Well, if you're guesstimating, you're compounding the problem. That's what is what we're getting at.
That's
right?
exactly what I said.
That's an issue.
That's exactly what I said.
Okay.
The key again is just to make, I guess maybe on land, you could do a search, find out when the transaction took place and so on and so forth, and come out with the exact numbers. The only problem with that, then there were additions for improvements and so on and so forth. And that's really where, you know, a lot of places take whatever number you have on your assessment for the land, your township assessment, and put that on there. It's not gap, but it's really what you need to be able to track them. But you just got to, as I said, once you do it,
Keep up with it.
you have to keep up with it.
And are we insuring based on these numbers?
Well, the insurance comes up with they come up with their own numbers.
I'm thinking of the commercial that I see too many times every day that says only pay for what you need.
Well, that's what
if they say it's a $10 million building and it's really only the Memorial Fieldhouse.
Oh, no, yeah. The
size,
the insurance.
That concerns me.
The insurance people also do an evaluation and an inventory too to make sure that they're okay.
They do their own guesstimate.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean.
Okay.
Everybody has their own purpose with fixed assets.
Yes.
And that's the real key.
Okay.
There are some old interfunds that haven't been clear between a trust fund, a LoSAP, and the current fund. They're in the process of being cleared. They probably will have been cleared at by now, because everything we're talking to you about, we've already had multiple discussions, even before we were finished with the audit, during the process. So I think that will be much better. Again, you have full-time staff.
To from between them?
Yeah,
or-
that's it. That's exactly.
And again, the size of the balances?
Well, the old ones are small. I know the LoSAP one is like $9,200. That's been around for years. But we can't, don't forget, we're talking about the old ones.
And what would be the process? Is it a reconciliation to clean these? Is
Well,
it-
actually, the oldest one,
What page are you on?
we're actually looking, page 18.
Balance sheet for the trust fund.
The oldest one is the interfund from the dog fund to the current fund,
Yes.
and that's $15,000. You collect money, if you don't spend it after 2 years, you're only allowed to have the amount in your reserve for dog fund expenditures can only equal your collections for the past 2 years. Anything above that supposed to be turned over to the current fund. The 15,000 wasn't, and the change basically between the 15,000 and the 20-something thousand that's on there was this year's excess collection. So that one's easy. You write a check to the current fund, take it into miscellaneous revenue, or spend it for dog fund related expenditures.
So that'd be like rabies clinics and stuff like that?
Yeah, rabies clinics is one thing. Years ago, they used to have to have an inventory where you had to have people go out and make sure everybody had their dog's license.
Yes,
You don't have to do that anymore,
way,
thank God. Nobody was doing it.
Can we use that to buy bags for the dog things in the parks?
Probably,
Related?
Probably can.
probably could.
Speaker stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So explain, when you have that excess fund that goes into the current can only be used for that particular item, is that going to the general fund?
General
itself?
fund.
General fund,
General
okay.
fund.
Gotcha.
General fund.
All right.
Use it for anything you want.
Thank you.
The number 4, the Township's Recreation Department was processing refunds without going through the regular approval process. They would just run it straight through their, what's the name of their system?
Community pass.
Community Pass.
Community Pass. Instead of going through and having somebody approve it and having a check written from the town, they were just kind of reversing expenditures. Really not a good control.
So tonight we have 19,255, which is authorizing a refund. How or who were these refunds being done? Are these, the person signed up in error, or are,
Sometimes they sign up intentionally, but then they find out that they're not going to be here, or something happened and they need to get a refund.
But are those refunds include the refund fee?
I believe the full fee was refunded.
Full fee.
So then we're expending our own money because Community Pass is a 4% charge every time we use it.
Yes.
So we got charged 4% to process it, and then another 4%. So whoever's doing that, there's a $25 refund. That's why it's there, because for the 4% transaction and the 4% transaction back. So it's costing taxpayer money. We're taking money out of the
Maybe
out of the
you
rec.
might want to consider instituting something like that.
But that's what it's been done. Last year, we processed 1 million refunds, and we voided them the one night. We tabled it the one night because the refund fee wasn't being charged, and they recalculated them all, and then they did them the next meeting. So what happened between last year and this year?
I don't know, I wasn't here last year.
I
so-
know you owe us for 2 weeks of last year, Judy. That's
That's it,
it.
2 weeks.
2 weeks of.
But I do agree with that.
If
You
it happened in December 15th and after, then it's your fault.
Well, let's see, no.
so are there audit trails on Community Pass, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there are.
So can we understand who was doing that, and do we have a process in place today? Again, Judy, a process in place today?
Yes, well, as you see tonight, there's a resolution that Mr. Sedekis prepared for a refund. I don't believe it has the percentage out. I mean, I don't know if we have to formally do something like that, Lou?
Well,
to-
it says it's $25 if you cancel your
Is
thing,
that
you pay.
is that in our
Right,
ordinance
Mr.
somewhere?
Toll,
or-
isn't that in our thing, I believe?
I don't know.
It's like
That is my
25,
recollection.
yeah, because that's the transaction fee, because, it's not fair that we're paying the four before and 4 after
Can we
percent.
pull that and verify?
We did it last year, we had to redo all of them, that's why.
No, I understand, but the one that's currently on the.
We'll have to
agenda-
All we did is one.
Yeah, so we'll
I know.
have to
would have to be
table it
amended
tonight
then.
and fix it.
But going forward, no, as a matter of fact, it was done by a previous administration, they were just refunding on Community Pass. So Mr. Sedekis just followed the same procedure. I don't think he was aware of it either, until the auditors brought it to our attention that it should be done formally through a resolution.
But that means Mr. Sedekis has authorization to be spending town dollars. And that I see as a problem already.
In terms of requesting the refund, you mean, or?
No, if he could process that refund in Community Pass, that's a problem.
There is controls in Community Pass where you can block people from being able to
But we're
do
not
that.
blocking people if he's able to do
No,
that.
but that is something that should be looked into. There is controls within that system of what users are allowed to do and not to do. And that would have to be done by an administrative level to go through and figure out what you allow people to do and not to do.
Correct.
But ever since the auditor told us about the resolution, he has not been refunding that way.
But I still don't
No, I
think
agree
he
with
is
you.
the proper person to be making the decision on the refund. That's a different discussion.
There's an ordinance in place that spells out a lot of stuff too. That was given out.
Well, do you want the person, as I believe the person asking for the refund has to write some type of formal letter?
I do.
And we'd have that as backup, just like in a normal procedure when someone wants
That's
a
fine,
refund?
but I'm
But
just
we're
saying,
talking about, you know,
We'll look into it as the authority to do that.
yeah. Okay, go on.
Next.
The accounts payable detail is not reviewed for aging and completeness before cancellation. I know over the years, I know last year there was a big push to address these old payables that were just sitting on the books for a long, long time. And the problem was cancellations were made without a thorough investigation on some of them. And there was one in particular that comes to mind right away. But it had to do with the codification of the town code. 3 years ago or whatever it was, you passed a contract with a vendor to do the codification for you, and they were making installments of blah, blah. And since it was such an old payable sitting on your books, whoever did the cancellation said it's old. Well, apparently you got a bill last year. and was right, because we investigated that one, and they were due the money. But, so anyhow, it's just somebody has to look at it. I mean, that's, a lot of this has to do with whether you had staffing, qualified staffing, enough time for staff. I mean, that's a lot of this.
Would you say that the same could be said for account receivables, or are they?
Well, we know what the accounts receivable issue was with fixed assets before. You weren't pursuing them. And now I think last year Ashley started working on that. And I know when we've spoken with Judy, she's watching those things to make sure your normal accounts receivable, like taxes, I mean, they're pretty well monitored. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with it. It's the other ancillary things. Sometimes there's a communication gap. Engineering's been getting grants and not necessarily telling you or telling finance that there's a grant. And so it's good that they got grants, but you have to communicate them here so they can be modified into your budget and or pursued for collection. So, but that's one example. That's the type of receivable. Other than that, the taxes, they're pretty well controlled.
Okay.
I do want to say also with the accounts payable aging, I did check that, and some of the old ones, it appeared that someone tried to purge them off the system, going way back years. And I was in contact with Evans, and they said something was done wrong. Most of them should have been at zero, and they were still showing a balance. So I'm working on that right now. Whether it was a glitch from many years ago, we don't know.
it was purged in our system, or it
Purged.
showed up on their system?
Well, it was purged, which the amount should have been reduced to zero, but it was
Okay.
still coming up with an actual balance in the account. And when you purge something, it should really be at zero, and it wasn't.
Whoever did it internally didn't do it properly.
Didn't do it properly.
We don't have a paper trail on that?
Well, I could look it up.
Please look it up.
Okay.
I know you're going to be Clouseau investigating.
No,
all
that's
these things,
okay.
but
I just
we
wanted
gotta
to tell you
find out
that, I was
what's
looking
going
at
on.
it, and it wasn't, done right.
Thank you.
I guess we're up to number 6. The cash balances per the annual financial statements reflect inaccurate deposits in transit and outstanding checks for the current and capital funds.
Bless you.
To the best of our knowledge, I can give you the two that really stand out. And one has to do when the 2017 notes were paid and renewed in 2018, it was all done through capital fund. And capital fund paid the interest on the notes. Normally, which is not necessarily inappropriate, but the problem was nobody wrote the check from the current fund where you actually budgeted for the interest to the capital. At the end of the year, the outside consultant came in and said, you guys didn't spend your interest. Well, obviously we knew that was wrong. So what they did was, instead of just expending the budget line and setting up an interfund, they hid cash, which I didn't agree with that transaction. And then there was another check on the other side of that, where there was a check that was discovered upstairs for cable television fees, I believe.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mike, can you just take a step back? So in that transaction, if they hit cash, what, now, do we have a difference in the capital fund for that interest? If we've paid it out of that, and we haven't been made, and the capital fund hasn't been made whole from the current fund, are we carrying a balance in the capital fund for that?
No, I mean, our audit has the interfund recorded properly.
Okay.
So where they hit cash, we increased cash in the current fund, and we reduced cash in the capital fund. And when that interfund's cleared, you'll be back in.
Okay.
Okay. And then there was there was a check that was discovered mid-January that was deposited properly once they found it. And
What do you mean, once they found it?
it was, you want to?
It was lying around in administration. I think it was the secretarial office that had the check, and it was given to finance, way after the fact.
We can't win.
Well, anyhow, so that one,
Lou, can I just go back 1 second to Mr. Ullman's question with that capital being paid out with cash as opposed to an interfund? Can you explain what an interfund would be? Is that a line item we have somewhere or something?
interfund means, like, use this as an example.
Okay.
Capital paid a bill that should have been paid by current fund.
Okay.
That creates an interfund, meaning that, and that means that current fund owes them money. On the other side of the coin, current fund is supposed to establish we owe you money, a due to, and the other one has a due from. They come down to zero. But it's basically, in this particular case, it has to do with one fund paid it, should have been paid by the other. It wasn't recognized until after year end.
I guess I didn't understand what the term interfund meant.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's
Okay.
even hard to look up in the dictionary.
I apologize. Thank you.
Number 7, individuals were paid without a council resolution an additional amount and charged to the vacant position line items to compensate them for performing necessary duties outside of their usual job descriptions. And you don't have a process. You don't have a process in your payroll authorization through your payroll ordinance or other things to accommodate these types of expenditures.
But, Lou, can I stop you there 1 second? We do. This council.
Well, yes, but I'm saying your process that.
No, but the process is administration cannot spend money without this council's approval. That is the process.
Yes.
So if somebody wants a raise or somebody deserves a raise, they have to come to us first, we have to appropriate the money, and then it gets processed.
Yes.
Until that happens,
That's the process.
that's the process.
Yeah, well, in some of these cases that we're talking about, it was people were being paid additional money because they're not overtime people. They were being paid additional money to cover for things that had to be done.
Yes.
For which, and I agree with you. The only thing that needed to take place was come to council and say, I want to pay these people all of this, and then that's the way it goes.
I don't think anybody's arguing the fact, but
Right.
but the process is, like, if somebody right now wants to make $27 an hour instead of 25, and administration wants to ask us for that, they could ask us for it.
Actually, there was a couple of people that got underpaid based upon their salary ordinance too.
Yes.
So, but as I said, I understand why some of this took place, just that the process has to be implemented, or the salary ordinance has to be changed to allow for some other process. But otherwise, other than that, they just have to come to the council, explain why they want to do what they want to do, and bring it to
We
the council.
approve it or deny it.
Right.
And should that, how do you, in your opinion, what is the appropriate vehicle to communicate that? Is it, we have an amendment to the salary ordinance this evening. Is it personal action forms? What would that process be? Just so that there's clear continuity.
Yeah, on the go forward, if this circumstance came up again, where you were, I'm not going to say, you were paying people for services over and above what they were supposed to do because they had to do it, I wouldn't amend the salary ordinance to take care of that. I would just say, okay, bring a resolution to the council.
So the personal action form should have a resolution number attached to it.
Well, that would,
And that could stop the finance person from putting the raise in if she doesn't see that. So that might be, all we have to do is add that to the personal action form.
yeah. Because the purpose of it, in
I was going to say, I wasn't listening to some of the early stuff, but now my ear is a little bit tweaked on this one. And I'm not sure what you're talking about is really accurate. Let me ask you a question. When you say, we're not talking about raises, we're talking about people, I think, from what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
So you have somebody in their position, they're covered by the ordinance and they get paid for doing their work.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're being asked to go to a different department that has, and do a job, I'm just
Yeah.
asking, I'm not
Right.
telling, I'm just asking.
Mhm.
So they're asked
Ken,
to
can you
go
just
to
put your mic on, please?
I'm sorry. I've never been accused
And
of
move
that.
closer.
Never been accused of having a low voice. I guess. So then they're asked to perform a function in a different department, which has funding in that department,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yep.
Right? So why isn't it just handled as a personnel action form? Why is it a council function to pass a resolution, since it has nothing to do with raises, has nothing to do with increasing payments, has nothing to do with changing anything except allocating personnel to doing something in a different department? Our form of government's a little different than the borough, and
I know that.
always has different
Right.
characteristics as a result, and so the norm doesn't really sometimes apply here.
Right.
But what I'm thinking, it's just what I'm thinking anyway, is that, if I was approaching it, and maybe you could tell me if this is something that works as the process. So if say, somebody is in one department, they're on a salary doing their thing, and then for whatever reason, they have to cover somebody else's position, maybe for, say, 2 weeks or getting work done or something, in a different department, where the money is allocated for that, extra, there's extra money in that department. If there's a personnel action form of doing the work in that department, would that take care of paying that person? Since it is a personnel It is a personnel control function, and the money is staying exactly where it's supposed to be. And that person who's doing the function, by the way, is not getting a raise per se.
No, they're not.
It's not permanent, it's not a
Nope.
raise, it's not changing the salary, or it's not doing anything vis-à-vis that. And it's not changing the position of that original person. So
Right.
that's not involved. So
I would say
it's
they
one
are
of those-
getting a
it's one of those
raise.
hybrids.
I would say they are getting a raise. They're getting more than they, on
I'll
June
tell you why they're
1st, they're
not.
getting one,
I'll tell you why they're not, because they're not getting more for what they're doing. They are now doing something in addition to what they were doing.
But then Lou's comment then goes away then. you
Yes,
say.
exactly. In other words,
But
yeah,
Lou made the comment, so if he's standing behind his comment,
well, he's just said the process. I'm asking, I'm just throwing, and I'm not, I'm just
well, we're trying to
throwing-
figure out the process.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. I think, I'm asking if this process would be acceptable. That a personnel action form handling the payment from a different department. Again, that person's not getting more salary for the same job. They're doing something totally different. Let's assume for the moment.
Well, that sounds nice, Mr. Pollard, but if I'm paying someone, let's say $50,000 to do job X, okay, and now he's doing job B, okay? Well, I'm losing money on my $50,000 in job X because he's not doing job X. So to me, that's a raise.
Okay, so
That's basically what it is.
I guess the real issue is whether the hours are less. In other words, if their hours, if they're taking hours away from their position, then I understand what you're saying, Steve.
Mhm.
But if they're putting in extra hours in a different department, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well,
Whatever.
Whatever.
Well, anyhow,
I'm just throwing it out.
no, that is part of the part of a process solution, but I think once that personal action form would be filed, it should be communicated, and maybe I'm wrong, so that the council knows that it's taking place. Okay? I mean, that would be,
Yeah, understood, yeah.
that would be part,
As
I think
opposed-
I think that's the big issue, is just that they're,
the issue is that we're it's a small town, it's a small town hall, there's limited number of staff, and as much as we talk about position, there's a individual, most likely a one-to-one, to that position, and there's an expectation of what that position is making, and therefore that person. And if that person is going to be given additional roles, we have these discussions when we budget. I think, if we're approving an amount, I think we should be told if someone else is getting that amount. And that's my opinion.
well, that's kind of like what I said. I said, if that's what,
But that's not what Ken's saying.
no,
You and him, based on what, if I read your comment again, Lou, is not what Ken Pollard just said.
Well, first of all, Ken Pollard's not the finance person.
No, but you just made a
was
statement too,
I was-
Ken.
I was throwing out something as a possibility for him to consider as the process.
But when I read his audit, his audit says to me that no one should receive a raise without a personal action form being completed and the council approving it. Is that correct, Mr. May?
no, I never said raise.
Or increase,
I'm talking about additional compensation.
additional compensation?
And because I said there was a vacant position to fill. I'm not talking, because everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, most people in town hall, they don't just work from
They're
point A to point, yeah, they're doing other things all the time. And if they have something that they have to do, if the tax collector's got to stay late or do something to prove something, they're going to be doing it. If Judy stays later, she's going to be doing, so those kind of things, I don't consider anything that anybody should get paid for. If they're doing over and above, and the only thing I'm saying to that process is, that should come to the council just so that you people know, so to avoid further discussions.
Okay.
I'm not talking about raises. Raises is a
Additional
whole.
compensation.
Yeah, raises is a whole different deal. Okay? Okay.
Number 8.
The appropriation and the appropriation reserve ledgers have over expenditures. Shouldn't happen. That means you spent more than you budgeted. There's a process, there's another process for doing that. Purchase order shouldn't be able to be authorized without it being encumbered into your budget. If that takes place, that should be there. There were certain things that we saw that were inaccurately charged to other accounts. And so when we reclassified them, you wound up with over expenditures. So it's just a matter of tightening the ship, making sure no purchase orders go out without having the QPA or the CFO make sure that there is sufficient funding. And once you do that, you should not have a problem. As a matter of fact, you have to override the system. Edmunds has in place, you can't charge something without overriding it.
So when you say that it was charged to a second line, and when it was corrected, it put us into an over expenditure, can you ascertain from your audit, was it split on purpose just to avoid that process? Or was it an error? Or were we trying to pay for things without having to come to the council? Because that's effectively, by coming after November or whatever, we could make a reclass and that over expenditure would be eliminated, correct?
Yes.
So, based on what you saw,
I couldn't determine if it was intentionally put in the wrong bucket or just wound up in the wrong bucket. And it was obviously, it happened to be a bill that had to be paid. And so, unfortunately, it just got paid.
How many people in township are able to create a PO in Edmonds?
I know I can, Dina can. I think most departments start with a requisition, and then it goes on
But
to
who
PO.
can create a PO, like Lou's saying, that would trigger a flag in Edmonds? Who in our township has the authority to create a PO, Bob?
Best my recollection would be CFO, the administrator, Dina, and also now Bernadette.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe when we found this either last year or early this year, we tightened up the rules in Edmonds as to who could. It was a little more broad before.
So we have tightened that up already?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, a quick question and an opinion. If you felt in a budget there was more control lines, would that help the issue of not making expenditures outside a particular budget area? Because I know it's a very dicey thing, because if
It would, I hate to say, it would probably create more.
you create more.
You would have more over expenditures.
With more line items.
With more line items. And I know why everybody wants a line item, because expenditures.
Well, a control line. That's what I'm looking for, control.
Oh,
at the bottom of, you have 7 line items. And
yeah, because there's, well, what I'm talking about is the line item.
I'm talking about control. I'm talking about control.
The control items, if they overexpended a control item, I wouldn't make a comment. I only speak to
the line item,
the actual line item in your budget. So if you had, for argument's sake, police other expenses, and I'm just using this, you could have 7 different, uniforms, blah blah blah, right down the line. If you had 10, wouldn't make any difference.
As long as you're not.
As long as when you add all of those things up, you still had money left in your account.
Okay.
For management purposes, as many line items as you wanted to have for control purposes, you could do whatever you wanted.
But with having more control lines, would that eliminate the issue of going outside and getting money from other areas?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think, I mean, my opinion,
Yeah, just your opinion.
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
And last but not least, the police department opened bank accounts without the authorization of the township. You want to just speak to those two things for a minute?
There was just 2 accounts that were opened. One of them was already opened prior to the audit, and then one was being opened as we were performing the audit, and that's when it came to our attention that there was no township approval, nor was it on your list of accounts, basically, and it wasn't in your balance sheet, in your cash in total. Both of them have minuscule balances in it. It's just the fact that they should not be able to do that, and it should be put underneath the same controls as the rest of the cash of the township.
Colleen, or Lou, when you say without the authorization of the township, is that the governing body or the CFO, or who is that specifically?
Well, at the CFO, you've authorized only like one bank to do most of your banking, and unless you have specified all of the various accounts that are allowed to be in that bank, the CFO probably had, with the mayor's approval, would have the opportunity to make sure it got listed and was authorized and so on and so forth.
Are these trust accounts, or are these?
Yes, they would be trust accounts.
They would be trust accounts. So they should also be on the ledger.
Correct.
And these warrants?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm doing that right now. You're correct.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Yes. You had contracts and agreements required to advertise. So I guess you're calling it out, but I'm not sure I understand. Are you raising a point? Are you bringing something to our attention?
No. It's kind of like standard language that you'll find in most municipal reports in New Jersey. The state's always required to discuss the public contracts law.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what this is discussing. Am I missing one?
No.
Yeah, that part is sort of like the standard language.
Okay.
If we saw a bidding violation, we might put it here, but it would also hit the comments and recommendations section too. But this is just the standard language to discuss the local public contracts law.
Okay. And Judy, as far as you know, we're in compliance with local finance and contracts and bids?
Actually, I have one I'm looking at right now that might be a little over the threshold
Okay.
that I haven't signed off on.
And what is that for?
Is the QPA reviewing these? Because we are paying the QPA
I don't know if
every
he
month.
is or not. I don't really know what role he is.
Okay.
I'm not in contact with him really. I don't know if administration is or not. It's for the work for the, I guess it's like the keypads for the doors upstairs.
Okay. So what would be the threshold that this would be reported under? Or what is the threshold?
Well, yes, you have several things with respect to purchasing. You have the $17,500 where you have to go out and make sure that they're not making any political contributions, so on and so forth. You have, if you have a QPA and you've authorized the amount of the QPA to sign off on, that goes up to $40,000. May have changed recently, but $40,000 is, but that is something that's set by the governing body to, and allowable. But $40,000 tends to be the standard when you have a functioning QPA.
Okay.
And, well, then there's other ones that go way, well, you might hit one this year. If you have a contract for over $2 million, after you award that contract, you have to tell the state. If you have one over $10 million, you have to tell the state before you award it. So there's I mean, hopefully you don't have to have any $10 million ones.
No.
But, so there's a variety of thresholds that you have to, and there's quote thresholds too, which is 15% of your bid threshold. So anything up to $6,000 for argument's sake, the QPA and they don't have to bid it, they have to get quotes. Then you go from 6,000 to 17.5 and then to 40.
And the security door or the door project, do we know what that is going to run?
The bill that I was seeing was a little over 40,000. I think it was 40,094, but I think over 40,000 is it, I believe, right? Doesn't matter if it's $1 over or $2. Yeah.
Okay, so we're reviewing that now.
So what would be, is there a question if we didn't advertise and get bids? Is there a question that we got bids?
Well, I think the normal procedures, I've only taken purchasing one, but I did take some CFO classes involved in purchasing. I think if it's over 40,000, you have to advertise for the bids. And I believe it's awarded by resolution by the council. Am I right about that? Well, I think.
Yes.
Okay. So if we haven't done that and it is over 40,000, what would be the corrective action?
There's additional information on this. I'll review Ms. Curran tomorrow.
Okay. I mean, if it was, it's done. I mean.
Well, it's not that. Nothing's been issued yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's even easier then. I mean, there's no purchase order issued and no work's been done, right?
Not as of yet. Work has been done, but PO has not been issued yet. And the work to date
But the work's been done?
does not equal that amount.
That's a different process.
It's a different process or a different problem?
Yes.
Okay.
No problem.
That's what I thought.
All right,
Okay.
anything else for Lou and?
Just a question, because I was looking, I know you, it's not related to, question didn't come from looking at the audit report, but it came from looking at the contract for the intersection. And they are talking about outside billing and police. Police will be paid. And then I went to see how our outside billing or what we're showing in the audit. And I guess my question is, my understanding is a trust fund, and it's essentially a pass-through. So if I'm looking at page 73, and we have 342 in receipts.
Yep.
And 325 in disbursements. Did you, I guess, the scope of your audit review the trust?
Yes.
It did. And in your opinion, there's no issues with the balances that are reflected here? It would just be a reconciling difference, a timing difference potentially?
Yeah, because you wouldn't accumulate money here. Some towns collect money up, a lot of money up front, and then they pay it down, sort of like you do with your, when you do zoning and stuff, those type of projects.
And escrow.
Right. Some towns bill afterwards. It's just a matter of how it'll, so in this case, you received the money, you hadn't paid it out yet. It's actually controlled by the police department themselves.
Okay. So who does the reconciliation of the account?
Well, with their receivables. They track their receivables if they have any receivables. It's all basically down there.
So Judy, do you evaluate this account?
Actually, I was told that we're trying to reconcile. I think some of the sub-ledgers don't agree, some of the sub-accounts don't agree. I believe Bernadette takes care of some, and I believe also that Joy takes care of some. But I don't know if they've been totally reconciled.
So can we, for the next meeting, can we understand if the 17,000 at year end?
It's a good number.
Does it represent true timing differences, or do we have reconciling differences in the trust?
Anything else, Mr. Allen?
Let me just check.
Mr. Cumming, anything?
No, I think he was, Mr.
Dr.
Myers
Cassian?
presented well and clearly. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Allen, or are you good?
I'm good, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Beinfeld and Mrs. Tracy. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. You don't look good. Are you a surgeon?
Oh. Oh, really? Yeah. There's a lot of that going around. My dentist fell off an ATV.
Hello, Mr. Beinfeld.
Mr. President.
Okay, just go.
Just go, Mr. Beinfeld.
Sorry.
We're on?
Yes, you're on.
You're on.
Bond sale, borrowing analysis.
Thank you. Sherry Tracy is to my right. I don't know if you've met her before. She is a bond structuring professional, municipal finance advisor, and she has put together some schedules that I think you may have in front of you. When I left a couple months ago, early June, we were looking at our notes that are coming due, that came due first of the month, second of this month, and taking it out to permanent finance, which has been considered for some time. We were moving forward with getting the right size of the financing. I think just before we left last time, we were encouraged to cancel some balances that weren't needed. We worked with Judy to figure out what that amount was. We also budgeted pay downs on your notes, so reduced it by in the neighborhood of $350,000, and then brought in Sherry to do an analysis, present to you a maturity schedule for the bonds. It would take. We rolled over the bands for a couple months to give us time to put the bond sale in place. So we're really here, and when Sherry can describe her schedules. But when she took a look at things, you know, interest rates have been coming down since we last talked in 2 months ago. You know, I read today an article, will negative interest rates ever hit the U.S.? And, you know, that would be great for a bond sale, but I don't think they'll be here in time. And Sherry can present it, and we wanted to come back before you because we had our essential direction, which was to put together schedules to take the notes to permanent finance. But since rates have come down a little bit, Sherry refined the analysis and made it more up to date from where it was. So I think, we're here to answer questions and present with you, with the goal being that when we go back to our offices tomorrow, that we will draft the paperwork for you to take formal action to sell the bonds at your next meeting, which I believe is early September, maybe the 3rd or something like that, which we'll need to try to get on that meeting in order to not miss the timing for the sale. So that's why we're here, and
Great.
Sherry?
Thank
Sure,
you.
can you present your analysis to
Yeah,
us? That'd be
thank
great.
you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So thank you, Bob. That was a great introduction and summary. I think you have 4 pages, right?
Yes.
That came from me. Okay, great. So the first page, what I wanted to do is, and obviously I wasn't here back in June, but I kind of started with the schedule that Mr. May had presented, so that you were familiar with where we left off. And as Bob and Judy and Bob brought me up to date on where things were. So this is the schedule that we were talking about, or council was talking about looking at doing for the bond issue. And as Bob mentioned, rates have continued to come down. They've been coming down since really last November, pretty steadily, but even more so in the last 2 months, down about 120 basis points. So 1.2%. So that's pretty significant.
Wow.
Yeah, and right now the difference between the 1 year, which is your note rollover typically, and a 10-year bond is only 0.25%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's absolutely a fantastic time to bond, to look at taking your notes and going long-term. So I know that's why the decision was made, certainly to roll those just the 3 months, and as Bob pointed out, in order to hit that, our plan would be then to look at taking formal action for September on what that maturity schedule would look like, that repayment schedule, what's to be included in the bonds, and then be able to sell the bonds in October and close before the November 1st maturity date on the notes. So.
And that still seems like a feasible thing?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, in just kind of starting, you'll see my first scenario looks very similar to the schedule that you had been discussing at the June meeting, really just refined for the fact that rates have come down. And so it allows you to actually pay a little bit more principal on the bonds a little bit earlier, next year and the next couple of years, pay off that debt sooner because the interest is so much lower.
Okay.
So really the main difference between the 2 scenarios is that the first one is bonding just the note that's outstanding. So it was now down to $5,630,000. So it assumes bonding just that for the 10-year useful life at a rate of 2%. Actually, in the current market, we'd be a little bit below that. We're seeing 10-year bonds selling around 160, 150.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's
So this is
really
still
incredible.
Your numbers
Yeah.
are still conservative.
Yes, exactly. And so this is at 2% because we still have a little way to go, and they get so low. They're not quite negative, but they get so low. Eventually, we get to a point, and yeah, they may start to tick back up. Although
Could happen.
yeah, although the market, they said absorbed last week the municipal market absorbed 13.7 billion with a blink, and just said it wasn't enough to feed the beast. So there was record inflows of municipal funds. So more and more people are looking to buy municipal bonds, whether it's just the individual bond or as a fund.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of demand, keeping those rates low. So again, first scenario just shows the $5,630,000. But what I've also factored in is I know you have 2 other ordinances for consideration later on the agenda that have already been introduced and being considered for final adoption. So what I wanted to do was incorporate those 2, and if they are adopted, I wanted to just be able to give you a picture of what could that look like for your overall capital plan. What is that going to do to the tax rate? What is that going to look like overall? So that's kind of what you see on this first scenario. If we were to do just bonding the 5.6 now, and then say next year going out for bond anticipation notes for those projects, for the one for the 3 million, and then also for the 6. What is that going to look like? Factoring in some of the pay downs, and then going to, and this scenario assumes another bond issue in 2025. So again, this just incorporates that and gives you an overall picture, sort of the gray, and I apologize that it's small, there's a lot of information on the sheet, but I wanted to include it all, including your existing debt, to show what the debt is you're paying for this year, so that you could see that with this bond issue, we would be able to keep the rate or keep the level of debt service flat from the current year. So in 19 right now, we have obviously the last issue on your 2011 bonds is paid this year. And so that's included on the schedule. Also the principal pay down on the note that was made and the interest on the note. So when we look at that in aggregate, it's just shy of $900,000. And so phasing in this new issue, we would be able to keep it at that level. And as we start to incorporate, again, those two ordinances, again, still pending, but if we were to incorporate those, you can see in that shaded
We're
kind of
still
that.
under 900,000.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's great.
So you can kind of see what that would look like. Now, of course, there's going to be other capital projects down the road, but you also see how that does drop down and allow for the addition of future capital.
What's the strategy or what's the mindset of not permanently bonding those 2019 ordinances?
Into this issue? Well,
Or doing separate issues, but doing it today? Because I guess the 5.6, where basically bonding the bans that we've been rolling over since the beginning of time.
there's some old ordinances in there, yes.
So those are the old bans, so that's 5.6, and you're proposing in scenario one that we bond those and there's a 10-year repayment on those.
Correct.
So the other thing, so when we move to 2019, or the ordinance for 2019, we have the firehouse of 5.7, and then the general purpose bonds, the general.
Yeah, general capital, yes.
General
Yeah.
capital for $3 million. So if we know that we're going to be expending the money, and the rate environment is at the point that it's at, why would we not want to try to bond those immediately?
The thought there may be that even though the rates are very low, you don't necessarily need all of that capital today. And also, while they may be estimated costs for the projects, you may not actually end up spending exactly the amount that's authorized to spend. So in the past, the township has, and many other municipalities will sometimes do bond anticipation notes while the projects are underway to see how much money you're actually
And then
going to
convert
spend. And then convert it to long-term financing once you know the dollars that you spend. Also, sometimes there's other sources of funds, maybe that, that may be used to pay down the projects. So, but that's not to say it has to be done that way. There's certainly a lot of municipalities that may go and do all of it at once. But again, I don't know the timing of the new firehouse building, when that would be construction and when you would actually need the dollars. So there's sort of that difference between right now, starting to pay interest, even if that interest is very low, 1.5% or 2% on money that you're not going to be spending yet.
And I'll add to that just one element. I don't have the precise figures, but if you're going to fold that bond issue into this bond issue, the time frame for both of them to be paid back is going to be squeezed, as opposed to, as Sherry said, the second bond issue coming in 7 or 8 years, in which case you can move some of that debt service in the back end after this 10-year bond matures. I think the numbers would show that if you pushed it all at once, you're going to have a higher immediate debt service in the next 9 or 10 years, which will it'll have a different, higher increase of the tax rate. You probably would not stay at the 900 number
Right.
that we just mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, so understanding that, when we look at the aggregate debt service and the incremental tax impact, I guess I'm just trying to understand what that number represents. So in 2000 and, if I'm reading it right, 2022,
Right.
there's the tax rate all else being equal, will go up by, each individual will have a additional 25, 49?
On the average home,
On the
yes. So
average home.
depending on what the assessment would be, but that would be over what the current rate is now.
Okay. And then the next year, it goes up because there's further bonding or... But as it goes down, when we get to 2045 and its total P&I is 468, would we be seeing a negative in this column, or is that not?
You would, but realistically, you'd have other projects. So,
Okay.
yes, but absolutely.
So you'd have
yes, it would.
money to pay for other projects because you're going down there.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
So
so.
if you wanted to say, hey, we're going to budget $900,000 a year for payments,
Yes, you could
you could say, hey, we could add another $500,000 in projects in, what year is that? 2035 or something.
Yeah.
You could pay go capital, or you'll have other
Yeah.
capital projects over the course of 20 years that will...
And you actually, your 2018 debt service was a little over $1 million. It was like $1,080,000 in the budget. So that's actually higher than any of the numbers.
So it's going to go down.
Yeah, so even though we're showing, an incremental $25 and then maybe 10 the next year, the interest is still pretty conservative, and it's still lower than 18 was.
Okay.
Can you convert a ban at any point into permanent funding?
You can within 90 days of the maturity date.
That's exactly right. There's a tax law limit. The federal government, which give tax exemption on this stuff, doesn't like two sets of obligations for the same thing to be out more than 90 days at the same time. So if you had you couldn't choose, if you went out for a year ban, 3 months into the ban, you can't, but in terms of a 10-year plan, you could decide at any point, at any year, that we want to go to permanent financing in that current year as part of your budget planning.
Okay.
Now, the difference with scenario 2 is that this takes, in addition to the $5,630,000 that's coming due, it also permanently finances an additional $1,620,000 for either of the pending capital ordinances. I happen to use the $3 million capital ordinance in this scenario, but of the two ordinances that are for consideration this evening, it takes a little bit of that. So to your point, with interest rates being as low as they are, maybe we want to permanently finance some more of it. We know these projects are happening. We know that we're going to need the funds for them. We're probably going to spend, maybe $1.6 million or so of them within the next year. So let's put them into this bond issue.
It actually perfectly goes to the point we were talking about, which is if you add more to the bonding now, it hits the tax rate. So Sherry's just added a little bit, really bringing us back to where analysis was when the interest rates were higher 2 or 3 months ago. That's what I think.
Are those balances, and is that, when we split it, is that fungible, or does it have to be a specific project that you're bringing in?
Well, we have to identify what we're financing when we finance it. We would need to choose that it's this, that, or the other, or a mixture of this and that. But we need to identify what we're funding, for
Yeah,
sure.
so it's going to be identified, like,
Yes.
it can only be spent for
Right,
this.
you can't just, and then, yeah, that's right.
But of that total $3 million ordinance, the $3,024,000,
It'd be
you just
anything at
take-
3024.
Yeah, you just take a
Right.
piece of it.
Any medley you want of the projects in there. Yeah.
Or if you chose to do some money for the firehouse, for instance, you could do.
Yeah, that could be the
But then-
2019 payments for the fire, 2020 payments for the firehouse when we start construction in January.
Exactly, yeah, and this is what was a number, the
If we
$1,620,000 was sort of a, an amount that still allows you to keep the tax rate somewhat flat, without increasing debt service too much, but still taking advantage of the lower rates. And then again, this scenario does then incorporate that bond issue later for just a smaller amount, since we put a little bit more into the
Right.
first one.
Excellent.
And again, the incremental tax impact would just be 1483 that year and so on until you, well, basically it stays flat, because you say right now our.
We're at $1.080 million.
We're at $1.080 and that's.
Oh, that was
still
for
under-
18.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
18, so it's still under.
Still under that number.
It's still under- it's
There'll
still
be a
under that
decrease
number.
there for a little bit, and then it'll go up $14.
Yeah. Yeah, but the 19 is down to about 900. Yeah, so there.
All right.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Well, let me ask, what would you suggest in the long run? Save the taxpayers' money.
Yes.
If you had a crystal ball.
Indeed.
And you were sitting in my seat. I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
And
you're
what's-
educated
No, that's
opinion.
fine, absolutely. Given where rates are, in my opinion, if those ordinances are adopted this evening, I would, knowing that if some of that money is going to be spent, and those projects are real projects that are, that are going to happen, I would include them. I would try to
Just do the
include
whole,
them.
whole thing at once and lock yourself
No,
in.
the $1.6 million.
Well,
You said
I mean,
include
the million six, yeah, because it does.
And then ban the rest and then permanently finance them later.
Right, exactly, because the $1.6 million, doing the whole thing, the full 3 million, 024,
You'll kill it. Yeah.
that may be a lot, that may be a lot to increase, because both of those ordinances are only 10 years, 10-year useful life, so meaning we'd have to pay those off in 10 years. So you would be you'd be putting a little bit more pressure on debt service
You'd like to stagger
for
them?
20 and 20.
Stagger them out, as it
Put
were?
pressure on.
Mm-hmm.
And do you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do you see, we're at a very advantageous rate structure now for bonds,
Yes,
even more so than the Fed prime.
right, yes.
And with the pressure I think I see and feel in the media and from a certain tweeter that Powell may be being pushed to and the
push them
and the
lower,
board.
yeah.
So what's the correlation between your numbers here for these bonds and the prime? Because I don't know
Well,
if there is a relationship.
It's not a direct relationship, because really it's the Fed is impacting just the short term
Not the
rates. And the long term is really guided more by, in our case, what's kept, treasuries are very low too, but what's kept municipals even lower is the demand. The demand is really strong.
So, Sherry, can I ask you one question?
Of course.
So let's say we go out September 4th, like Mr. Beinfeld said, and we come in under 2.5. Can we increase that 1.6 to another number, or are we stuck at the 1.6 at that point?
You got to make the choice as to what you're going to do once we go out.
That's what I'm saying. So if it comes in lower, that's just great. The taxpayers just see it coming in lower.
That's exactly right.
But we
It's a-
can't
it's a good
increase it to
thing.
2 million to get us to the 900,000 number is what I'm asking.
Right. We can't, once we
I
operate.
gotta ask the question, you know?
You're trying.
I try.
You're trying.
Thank you. Any other questions, gentlemen? Mr.
Quite
Mayor, I
clear.
think you had a question?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, a very simplistic question maybe to people either in the audience or who might be watching us. Because what we're basically talking here, I think, is cost of money. And assuming we have projects that are either ready to go or being held together by Band-Aids for the next 2 or 3 years, I don't see the rates going down, but there is a decent chance they could go up in the next 3 years. So, not looking to put words in your mouth, but would it be a fair statement to say, if you have projects coming up, now is the time to do them to lock in long-term financing for them?
Defer a bit to Sherry on that. I think yes. So I think the answer is absolutely. It's a good time to lock it in, and your only balancing consideration, I think, Mayor, would be how much you want to load in, because it'll hit the tax rate. So you want the opportunity of rates going down, as Sherry has mentioned, by 100 basis points or so. That may predate our 2 or 3 month analysis, but I think they've probably gone down 50 basis points. What you have is an opportunity to load in more now of those projects that are coming up. Because the debt service associated has gone down, so you can throw more in.
Yeah.
You can't do it spontaneously on the slot, but you have a chance to do it
Well,
while
we're
you're
getting
setting it up.
we're getting rid of the bands from the dinosaur age, and we're adding $1.6 million that we can pay for the new project. So I think it's a win-win.
And just Judy, to your knowledge, do you concur with what's being said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Mr. Allman, you had one more thing?
No, I just think that, when we finish this round of funding, we should really have a clear plan of how we're going to handle future funding, because we are going to be paying, depending on which scenario we go with, another $550,000 to $780,000 in interest on the bands that we have to retire, the 5.6. And we've had these borrowed for quite some time. I'm sure we've paid that much or more. So I think, we shouldn't get enamored with cheap money, because there's still a cost.
No, absolutely.
So that would be my only point.
At the time, to follow up on that at the time of this bonding, before these new projects go forward, you'll have wiped your note slate clean.
Sure.
So you'll.
And then just to point out, the last page is just a graph, because I like the pictures. They always tell the good story, or at least an accurate story. So this is just a graph of the 1-year municipal bond rate and the 10-year. So you can see exactly what I was talking about, how they're really starting to come together. They're only about 25 basis points different. And you can see that big rundown in the 10-year really from just about November 1st of last year. So just shows we're actually within just a couple of basis points of
each other.
Yeah.
And this is what it means when you hear them all talk and stuff about almost yield, like inversion of yields, meaning that the long term is almost under a 1-year rate, which is kind of where we are.
Heading to recession.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No, it was a very good analysis.
Procedurally,
Procedurally, you need a commitment on which one we want you to drive.
Or it would be great to have that way, and I don't know if we're at the right timing or portion of the agenda, but if.
So either we want scenario 1 or 2.
I guess we'd like to be able to start getting ready for your next meeting.
Mike, there's a little straw poll. Are you in favor of scenario 1 or scenario 2?
I would say probably scenario 2.
Okay. Mr. Cumming?
Scenario 2 is the big money.
Yes.
Scenario 2.
Dr. Cascio?
The interest rates are compelling.
Show me the money. Scenario 2, please.
Scenario 2, please.
Great.
Thank you. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next meeting. We'll have your information for the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Very
it.
nice.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sharon.
Reading a total list of bills, Mrs. Lukowski?
Following is a list of bills paid since the last bill list was submitted, representing July 13th, 2019 through August 9th, 2019. Total 2018 reserve, $18,278. Total 2019 current, $2,881,338.11. Total capital fund, $28,977.13. Total animal control, $36.60. Total grant fund, $6,989 even. Total trust fund, $3,624 even. Total escrow trust, $24,597.98.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. It's more a generic question, but the current account, the 2.8, so we had schools that we paid 2.3, GIF of 92, the sewers of 185, benefits of 78. That's quite a bit of cash flow, and I received my tax bill, and it's giving us to September 3rd, which I have a question about. But I guess my question is, to Judy, is do we have any cash flow issues with regard to paying current obligations from the current account?
We could have, but we did ask the school if we could have a couple of days extension to pay the school tax, and they agreed, and we were able to pay them on, I think it was Thursday of last week.
Thursday of last week?
And when was the account due to them?
I believe it was due August 1st.
So I have a question, and perhaps I'm not reading this properly. Are we backdating our payments? Because it's showing a check number and a check date of August 1st.
Yes, it was actually,
Page 11.
it was drafted on that day, but we did place a call to the school to see if we could hold off on actually delivering the check to them for a few days, and they were in agreement with it.
Okay, so, and that's because we did not have adequate current funds?
Yes.
Okay, so the taxes are due quarterly. Do we have this problem in other quarters?
No, just the tax rate was very late, so the tax bills were very late.
Okay, so, and that goes to my next question. So if the tax bills are mailed on the 2nd, and I believe Peter at the last meeting mentioned they would be due 25 days after they were mailed, would put us at the 27th. Do you know why we are giving our taxpayers till September 3rd?
That's not my decision. That's the tax collector's decision to do something like that.
Well, Edmonds had advised the tax collector that they wouldn't be mailed till the 6th or 7th of the month, but fortunately they were mailed earlier, but we had no way of knowing that.
And I thought, and maybe it has changed recently, but I thought the town themselves printed our bills and mailed them. We don't do that anymore?
We haven't done it the past 2 years.
And do you know what our current collection rate is for the 3rd quarter?
Well, I would say that usually if it's due September 3rd, most people do wait until that time to pay it.
Okay.
We've been pretty lucky. I think today we got a payment of $800,000 from one of the big banks.
My wife ran in 3 days ago and paid, at least. The day she got the bill.
800,000?
Not that much.
800,000.
So Edmonds couldn't give us a firm date of when they're gonna mail the checks or mail the bills?
It was our impression that the 6th or 7th was a firm date, but they ended up getting it done sooner, so they mailed on the 2nd. We're too late for us to change our dates at that point.
Is there any way, do we have an agreement with them, or can we enforce any type of agreement so we can get that tighter? Because,
I'll have to get you an answer and I'll take a look at it.
okay.
Anything else, Mr. Palmer?
No. And what if I guess what would happen if the school didn't allow us to remit the bill later or remit the payment later?
We could possibly borrow from other accounts that we have. I'd like to actually maybe even think about doing estimated bills in the future, because Bergen County has been late, the state's been late.
Majority of towns are doing estimated bills.
Yes.
They take the two of them and they average them together.
Yes.
I know.
They look at
I
last
know a
year's
lot of
budget and this
towns
year's
do
budget,
that.
and they come up with a tax
Do we
rate.
have to change our ordinance or anything to do that, Judy?
No,
or
just
is
that it
that
has to go to resolution to the council, they have to approve it for it to be done.
Who would make that recommendation?
Let's do
What's
that.
that?
Yeah.
I think that's so much easier.
We'll proceed with that.
Because then it fixes itself. Once it's only for the third quarter, but at least you're collecting the money on time and you don't have this situation.
Yes. You'd have to consider that there's a little more cost involved, because you're sending out, you're printing out estimated bills.
We pay admins twice, so who cares?
Well, that's up to council if you want to put that in the budget.
We don't have to pay them, so
Yeah.
we can, hopefully,
Maybe we could
Do-
print some in-house and
do
make it
in-house.
half in each, I don't know, whatever,
like to do it in-house.
something.
And we do have the personnel to do it. Other towns our size do it. I don't know why we're sending the work out. I know we've done it the past 2 years, but I think that's something we're spending money on a salary for. We have the equipment, so, let's keep it in-house if we can.
With all respect, there are towns that are bigger than us by 4 times that are sending it out the same way we do, too.
I'm sorry?
There are towns that are 4 times as large as us
And sending them out.
that
to
are sending
residents.
them out just the way we did.
Do now or did?
They do now.
In-house?
No, I said send out.
Okay, but they're
They-
4 times our size.
Yes. 11,000 tax-paying.
Yeah, well, it's a lot more than 3,000.
3,000.
Yeah.
So, Art, do you think we can do it in-house?
I guess we could, but we may run into some delays and some human errors.
Okay. Food for
We've just
thought.
been spending an hour and a half talking about minor mistakes.
Food for thought. Anything else on the bill list, Mr.
I have a
Holden?
couple of
No.
questions,
Mr.
but in the,
Cummings?
excuse me, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Mr. Ullman,
I
I
did
didn't
not.
mean to step on you.
No, I was going to ask you next, Mr. Cummings, if you had any.
Thank you, sir. I was going to say that I will email them into Mr. Tovo in the interest of expediency tonight.
Thank you.
Because we've held a lot of
Dr. Cassio,
people up.
anything?
Nothing at this point.
Approval of minutes, public meeting minutes, February 4th, 2019, conference meeting minutes, February 4th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno, Councilman Cassio.
Yes.
Councilman Cummings.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Public meeting minutes, February 19th, 2019, conference meeting minutes, February 19th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Cassio.
Yes.
Councilman Cummings.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Report of the mayor, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Try and keep this brief. Summer concerts. We closed out our summer concert series of 2019 on this past Friday. It was postponed from an earlier date due to the excessive heat a few weeks ago. The band was Rubik's Cube, the popular 80s tribute band. The children that were there had a good time as the band invited them on stage a couple of times. These concerts have shown that they are great events to bring our community out for a few evenings a year to interact with each other. I can't thank our fire department members enough for all they do in the planning stage and before and after each concert. Our summer rec program had a tremendous year with over 450 participants. Using the Bethany Community Center allowed us to offer more activities to the children. There are too many people and organizations involved to thank them all individually, so I want to give them all a collective thank you for making the program a huge success. I count the concerts and summer rec programs of 2 of my major achievements to make us a more community-oriented place to live. Bethany Community Center is being a great neighbor in our town. If you haven't paid them a visit yet, you owe it to yourself to do so to review the many programs they have to offer. We've established an excellent relationship with them and look forward to partnering with them for many more events in the future. Our grant writer has met with all of our departments and is putting a summary of those meetings together to review with the administration. Planning Board, I'm happy to announce to everyone who doesn't already know about it that at the July 24th meeting of the board approved an application from a Dairy Queen franchisee. Their expected opening will be sometime in November. With that store opening, the shopping center will only have one remaining space vacant. Please give the stores your support. The board also adopted the town's master plan re-examination report at their July 31st meeting. I encourage you to go to the town website to review it. The plan reaffirms the desire to keep the town's residential character and keep the town as green as possible. I'd like to thank the subcommittee members of the board who worked with T&M Associates to update the plan. Capital projects. We look forward to the council approving the bond ordinances this evening so we can get started on these long overdue projects. None of us on the dais enjoy spending large amounts of taxpayer money. However, I can assure the residents and taxpayers the spending is necessary to keep our town facilities current so home values continue to rise and our town will be on the top of the list when people are looking to relocate. After some recent increases in interest rates, the trends are on the way down, so now is the right time for the town to lock in low interest rates for the long term to fund these important projects across current and future residents. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report of the council, Mr. Ullman?
No report.
Mr. Cumming?
In the interest of expediency, I just want to thank the council president for his kind remarks concerning the greenness of Memorial Field.
It looked beautiful Friday night.
I walked it before the concert, and it was totally green except for a couple of small holes. And his suggestion of field blankets, which
We're
helped
putting
an
them on
awful
this year,
lot.
right?
Oh, we're putting them on soon. And that's it. Enough.
Thank you. Dr. Cassio?
More later.
Just a quick report. Council President and myself met with two representatives from Westwood. Was that 2 weeks ago, Mike?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, discussing a possibility of shared services in many areas. It was a good meeting. We have a lot of good ideas, and I think we can work very well with the Borough of Westwood I don't want to say consolidating, but doing a lot of things together to benefit both municipalities as well as the school. You know, it's very unique to the township and the borough that we do share a school system. I think we can share a lot more. We were talking about maybe doing some municipal athletic events, working
Mayor and council challenges.
Yes,
and,
things of that nature.
Oh,
But,
boy.
you know, working together to, you know, better the life of both residents of both towns.
Yes.
So, and we'll give you further details in the future. That's all.
Thank you. Very quick, summer concert series was great. Thank you for everybody involved in getting it on. Not only did the children have fun, the adults had fun, Mr. Mayor. So that was great to be at. It was an honor to be with the police promotions tonight. Congratulations to the 3 gentlemen who got promoted tonight. Well deserved. The intersection tonight, we will hopefully pass the ordinance, which will put us into the queue to have the funding available to us next year, so hopefully that'll pass. And that's about it for now. Motion to open the meeting up to the general public.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Cassio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. If anybody would like to come up and address the council at this time, please state your name and address. Anybody like to come up? Good evening.
Jim Zacconi, 668 Clinton Avenue. I'm also a member of the fire department. I've been a resident of this township for 57 years. I've been a member of the fire department for 44 years. Now, when we moved here, the original firehouse was a 3-bay garage with a flat roof. It was built in 1951 to 1951 standards. In 1966, they added 2 bays onto that and a second floor. But the bays were copies of what was there to 1951 standards. Now, over the years, the insurance companies got involved, OSHA got involved, the NFPA got involved, and we used to have the gear that we wear, the helmets, the boots, the coats, was on the trucks. When we got on the trucks, we'd go to a call and get dressed when you got to the call. Well, that's all changed now. The gear has to come off the trucks. It's got to be on racks. So we're losing an entire bay in that garage with gear racks, and we have to be fully dressed before we board a truck to respond to a call. So what I would like to see is you gentlemen come down next Monday night. I'm sure the chief would okay this. You sign an application, join up, we'll give you pages. You don't have to go to the academy, and you don't have to go fight fires. Just come down and observe. When we get a call, you come down 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when we're answering a call, and you see me and 5 other guys getting dressed out in the rain, because that's where our gear rack is, right up against the door. When the door's open, all the doors go up when there's an alarm and the trucks are rolling out, we're getting dressed out in the rain. Now, we save this township approximately $2 million a year by providing volunteer fire service. We deserve better than that.
Thank you, Mr. Zucconi. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Mr. Schneid? No? You don't have to
I just want to mention one thing.
You're here, so I don't want to close.
No, that wasn't, no, I wanted to wait till you get to the bond ordinance and you have the public. Susan, I want to wish you a happy birthday. The only reason I mentioned it, that many of you don't know today, because I went up to get the agenda and I saw balloons on her desk. So, happy birthday, Susan.
Happy birthday, Susan.
Happy birthday.
And then in relationship to the next thing, when you get to the bonding thing, there'll be a little public discussion on that,
Yes.
right? I'll talk then.
Okay.
But great meeting tonight.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. You're so happy about your birthday.
I'm so excited, these wishes, it's wonderful.
We should sing happy birthday.
No. Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Cummings.
Yes.
Councilman Omen.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinances, adoption, second reading. Ordinance number 19-13, bond ordinance providing for the construction of a new firehouse, fire and emergency services facility in and by the Township of Washington in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $6 million, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of 5.714 million bonds or notes of the township for financing such appropriations. Resolution number 19-247, authorizing second reading and opening of public hearing for ordinance 19-13. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Anyone on the dais before we? No?
Not at this point.
Roll call?
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Cummings.
Yes.
Councilman Omen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yes?
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Would anybody like to come up and address the resolution 19-247? Mr. Schneider?
David Snide, 91 Windsor Circle. As I said at the last meeting when we were talking, very much in favor of everything we're doing in terms of the fire and the bonding of the new facility. I still want to go on the record, because it'll be a couple of years before I'll have to say something about this, that I'm still concerned with the congestion that's coming through, even with the light, whether they're going to see the light or notice it for a while, at the corner of the intersection of Washington Township and, Township, Pascack Road and Washington Ave. You know, in the interim, you have two towns that are adding more residents. Park Ridge, which whether they're coming down and coming through Westwood and coming up, you have Woodcliff Lake. All these are going to continue to have more traffic flow coming through here. My concern, and I know the chief, you said at the meeting I was at, was okay with the traffic coming out of there. I'm still concerned, and I just want to go on the record. I'm in favor of all this, but I'm concerned how much more traffic can we handle. That's all I'm saying to you based on what's happening.
Thank you.
There's nothing else. Except, that's it.
Okay.
Nothing.
Anyone else? Motion to close public hearing for ordinance number 19-13.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Cummings.
Yes.
Councilman Omen.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. We're good to go. Motion to adopt ordinance number 19-13 at second reading by title. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Cummings.
Yes.
Councilman Omen.
No.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Okay. We need 4 for that, right?
That's
Tim?
correct.
Ordinance providing for various improvements and purposes to be undertaken by the Township of Washington and County of Bergen, New Jersey, and appropriating $389,712 therefore, constituting proceeds of obligations of the Township heretofore issued. Resolution number 19-248, authorizing second reading and opening of public hearing for ordinance 19-15. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Would anybody like to discuss ordinance 19-15 at this time? Seeing no one, motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 19-15.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 19-15 at second reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Ordinance number 19-16, an ordinance providing for alternate members of the Planning Board of the Township of Washington. Resolution number 19-249, authorizing second reading and opening a public hearing for ordinance 19-16. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Would anybody like to discuss resolution number 19-249?
Good evening, Council President, members of the council. John J. Lamb from the law firm of Beatty Padavano. We represent the concerned neighbors of Washington Township Incorporated, and I believe that the township already has a list of our members and supporters on file in previous correspondence. I guess I just have two simple questions, and the first question is, which of the council persons or mayor who basically came up with this idea or was the proponent of the ordinance? I did not appear. I guess it was previously introduced in July. I looked on the website to see the minutes of July, but as many towns, I'm not criticizing, you're a little behind on your minutes like virtually all the towns. So I think you went up to March, so I couldn't see it. So that's one question. Who is the proponent of the ordinance?
Mr. Pollock, you.
So, I mean, what does that have to do with your position on the ordinance?
Well, you'll hear my position, but I just have a simple question.
I know you have a question, but I'm just saying, what is the purpose of the question? I mean, ordinances come up all the time, so it does.
But they don't come up out of the blue. I want to see how it materialized.
Well,
that's.
I can honestly, well, let me say this. I don't see the reason for anything the reason for asking the question, but I also don't think there's any reason to answer the question, to tell you the truth. Because
in the interest of full disclosure, I would think that the council would want to let the public know why they're proposing to take a 9-person planning board and add 2 members and make it 11 members. That's my simple question.
Okay, well,
where did it come from?
Okay, well, first of all, they're not increasing the board from 9 to 11. What they're doing is they're doing the same thing with the planning board as they had done with the zoning board. The zoning board has a certain amount of members, I think it's 9 members, right, the zoning board, and then we had alternates. And for whatever reason, there were never any alternates on the planning board. So this is not increasing, maybe it's a misunderstanding, we're not increasing the size of the planning board. Basically, we're providing alternates. And the alternates would function exactly the same as they function now for the zoning board. So the board would remain the same as far as numbers, not increasing them, just providing for alternates in case.
And
let me finish. I mean, there are situations where there are extended illnesses. There are situations where people can't come to meetings and things like that. So as I said, it's really the same setup as the zoning board. And as you know, I don't have to tell you, the municipal land use law provides for alternates for both boards. And we had one for the zoning board, never had one for the planning board, so we did have a code, codification also as well, and we did go through a whole bunch of things with that as well.
Okay, so let me just say, when I say it's going to 11 members. It is going to 11 members. There'll be 9 regular members and 2 alternates. So your dais is going to be, when you take away the attorney and the secretary, your dais is going to go there on the top, and then you're going to have 4 members on the bottom. And I just want to know.
But that's assuming that they all show up. Not everybody shows up for it. But I'm just saying.
They can all show up.
Yeah, they can. I agree, they have to have chairs, there's no doubt. Have to have chairs.
So the simple question for purposes of disclosure is which council member or council members thought this was a good idea? That's all I want to know.
It's not a question, I think, that has to be answered. That's just my view.
Okay. Now let me give you the second simple question, since the first one wasn't answered. And I always have a follow-up simple question. I understood that there was a statement made in the July meeting when this was introduced, and I don't know because I tried to look at the minutes and couldn't find it, that this was possibly in connection with the Viviano application or the American Dream application before the planning board. And I was wondering if that had anything to do with that. Did I hear correctly or incorrectly? I wasn't here at the July meeting.
I don't recall the July meeting. The minute, are they in the minutes?
I don't have the minutes because they're not on the website.
They're being worked on right
And
now.
I'm not criticizing. I understand.
No, but they're being worked on right now.
I don't remember, to tell you the truth.
I
Yeah, I have to get back to you on the minutes, actually.
Okay.
So I could do that.
Let me just make a
I get back to you.
Let me make a simple statement. I'm involved in a number of land use cases. I represent applicants, neighbors and objectors, and boards, all 3 sides. I'm involved in 2 applications now, which I would label somewhat contested. One is the American Dream Viviano project. I'm involved in another project in Bergen County as well on behalf of a group of neighbors. And all of a sudden, when a couple board members were disqualified for a conflict, all of a sudden, of all the cases that I've had, both towns mysteriously decide they want to get an ordinance adopted and increase the number. Just out of coincidence. I haven't seen that in decades. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever seen it. So when I look at it, it does not appear to me to be proper. It doesn't appear to be proper if the reason for getting board members on it is to try to stack the board or in the middle of an application influence the board, because there's plenty of board members that can vote on the applications now. You still have 6 or 7 planning board members. So to me, it's not like we're down to 3 or 4. You've got 6 or 7 or 8, depending upon certain recusals. So my simple question is, there doesn't seem to be any need. And so respectfully, I believe it does not appear appropriate to, in the middle of the application, when a couple board members had conflicts, to all of a sudden try to increase the board to put board members on this application. Now, I do have a solution, because I always try to come up with a solution. If it doesn't have to do with the American Dream Project or any current application, you could adopt the ordinance and limit it to only apply to applications that are not currently before the board. And in that case, the extra 2 members wouldn't at all be appearing to influence the vote or be appointed for any political reason. So respectfully, I have to say I'm a little disheartened that no one could tell me. I mean, obviously I can't question the council members in a forum like this, but I could ask each one, did you propose this? Are you the proponent of it? Somebody's the proponent of it. It wasn't just sitting there and all of a sudden it became a good idea unless there's another document to recommend it. So that's essentially my comments. With respect to this, and I note that we've already established that Councilman Keynes has a conflict with me and my firm because we were involved in litigation with him, and so I would request, consistent with his previous recusal, that he also not participate in this because we've taken a position on it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion to close public hearing for ordinance 19-16.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to adopt
Okay,
ordinance.
so let me just, I didn't get that last part that you were doing, so. I'm sorry. So, Mr. Lamb, you're saying that Mr.
Can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, it's on. So, just want to clarify what you were saying. So, you're saying, you're requesting that Mr. Cumming not vote because he recused himself from being on the planning board on your application? Is that what you're saying, basically?
He previously recused himself on the planning board matter because my firm was involved in litigation with him, and I don't think the details need to be made unless he wants me to disclose it. We were involved in litigation,
Okay.
and he chose, after discussing with Mr. Bell, that he should recuse himself, and I'm just suggesting that for the same reason. I don't want to sit back and let him vote and then do a gotcha later.
Understood. I understand. Okay.
May I make a comment?
If Mr. Pollard thinks we should, yes.
Mr. Lamb, I think you used the words, since I'm the one who appoints members to that board, that you insinuated that I would stack the board. I take great exception to that comment because I only appoint people who I think will listen to every case fair and balanced, and I think that was a tremendous disrespect to me to use that term.
Okay, first of all, I don't mean any disrespect. And if you notice, I did not say actual conflict of interest. I said an appearance. It's an.
No, you said I would stack the board.
Okay, and that's always the concern, that when you're in the middle of an application and a couple members disqualify themselves or get disqualified, that all of a sudden there's an ordinance that has never been previously occurred in Washington Township to add members.
I understand that, just you impugned my integrity by saying I would stack the board.
Okay, let me also say this. Respectfully, I think you also have a conflict in participating in anything involving the Viviano and American Dreams project.
We addressed that in planning board meetings.
Okay, and I understand that a decision has not been made as to whether you're going to recuse yourself from that.
Absolutely.
Okay, you are recusing yourself?
No, absolutely, a decision has not been made.
Okay, so the decision has not been made, but if the decision is still up in the air, then you likewise should not participate with the council.
He doesn't.
I don't.
He does not vote.
I'm a non-voting member.
He doesn't vote, but if he's in the room to discuss it, that's also not proper.
But Mr. Lamb, you also said that this is a ongoing application. To best of my knowledge as an outsider, because of your group, the application is starting over, and they've postponed every meeting to restart the application. So it is not an ongoing application. The new application has not started yet.
Well,
you made the statement that it is an ongoing application, but the new application, because of your group, has not started yet, correct?
First of all, what happened is the variance is all expired.
I understand
The
that.
planning board has not made a decision on whether they're starting anew as the site plan, but the application was filed, it certainly has started. And as far as the last two meetings, the developer canceled the last two meetings, not my group.
But we haven't heard, but I understand it's not your group, but I'm saying there's been no testimony. The application has not started yet.
There were two hearings in which testimony was taken before my involvement. The application was filed, reports have been given, and so I would fairly say that that application has started.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that you should recuse yourself from this vote, basically on the same basis of your recusal on the planning board. I think the same approach should be used in an abundance of caution. I don't think there's any need for you to vote, and I would recommend that you recuse yourself. I don't do that. You have to recuse yourself, but I would recommend that you recuse yourself.
On your advice, I'll recuse myself.
Not recuse from the vote.
From the vote on this.
From the vote.
From the final.
Just on the
Not the
ordinance.
public hearing. If I'm
No, just-
voting and closing the public hearing.
Oh, close
Yeah,
it.
we're going to do motion to adopt ordinance number 19-16 at second reading by title. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
You can't second it if you're going to.
Oh, if I'm not recused yet.
Oh,
I'll
I'm
second.
going to recuse when you call the
Michael
vote.
Roots.
Let Michael do it. Thank you.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Cumming.
Recuse.
Councilman Ullman.
No.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Okay,
It's a no pass.
it doesn't pass. Ordinance number 19-17, bond ordinance appropriating $4,288,650 and authorizing the issuance of $3,024,000 in bonds or notes of the township for various improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the Township of Washington in the County of Bergen, New Jersey. Resolution number 19-250, authorizing second reading and opening a public hearing for number ordinance 1917. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Cumming.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Motion to close public hearing for ordinance 19-17. I'm sorry, does anybody want to discuss ordinance 19-17? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close public hearing for ordinance 19-17?
So,
Second.
Councilman Casio.
yes.
Councilman Cumming.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 19-17 at second reading by title.
So,
Second.
Councilman Casio.
yes.
Councilman Cumming.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Introduction on first reading, ordinance number 19-18, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 19-11, an ordinance under Chapter 55 of the Code of Township of Washington, setting forth the rate of compensation and manner of payment of employees for the year 2019. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 19-18 at first reading by title. Motion?
So moved.
Mike?
I'll second it.
Before we,
Any discussion?
yes. So I guess in line with the
Did you want to close or something? I don't know about.
No.
they were waiting for the second funding ordinance to be passed, because it had the truck.
Yeah. That's the truck.
The three, were all of these discussed previously in terms of the new salaries or the revised salaries?
Well, there's only two, Mike, right?
No, there's four.
Oh, three.
There's three.
No, there's
Well, the two, yeah, the three of them are
Four
the same
items.
yeah.
There are 4 items, he's right.
No?
We didn't discuss recreation, did we?
No, we did not discuss recreation. The township clerk was discussed. Remember, that was the error we had originally that we had to correct?
No. This is for the assistant to go full-time in September. as discussed
Correct,
in
we
the budget
didn't
meetings.
budget correctly.
No. You budgeted what her salary was up until now. There was no fudging. Her salary's been exactly what it was paid before she went full-time. Going full-time is just an increase in hours, not an increase in salary, but this will reflect the remainder of the year, September 1st through December 31st. And then the other two with the registrar stuff, that was never, with the original salary ordinance, the 1.5% was never added on to that. It's just a matter of principle putting it
It was an oversight.
Yeah, it was an oversight.
Right?
That's not
Right,
an
Judy?
increase, it's an increase that's due for
Yes.
the 1.5%.
The 1.5 was not included in those
Okay.
items.
But the Department of Rec, we never
Cornelius going
discussed.
No, that one,
full-time
no.
on the first one.
That hasn't been discussed.
So
The second and third were oversights.
the individual who holds this position was part-time, and the individual was being paid part-time. They're going full-time on September 1st, and this reflects that, and this has been funded.
Are you talking about the secretary, or are you talking about?
Yes, the
Yes.
secretary. Okay.
Yes.
So this is bringing the salary ordinance in line with the budget, which is in line with the discussions.
Yes.
Line 2, the registrar.
That salary is broken down into two different sections, one for preseason and one for actually the summer activity by the director. This is more of an effort to combine those two together.
Combine those two.
So whether you're spending the hours in preseason or during summer season, one hourly rate would cover that, as opposed to trying to figure out where to deduct the funds from and so forth. That was at Mr. Pinto's request, that we put it together. It's easier for him to track that way.
So what I don't understand is, we budgeted it separately, I'm assuming because there are two separate functions. There's a preseason, that's prep and whatever it is, and then there's the actual. So I guess why would we budget it separate and then decide after the fact to combine it?
Well, it was budgeted separately, as from what I understand, because that's the way it had always been done. But in speaking with Mr. Pinto, he didn't feel any need to do that because they tend to flow right into one another.
Is it a year-round position?
No.
No.
Seasonal position.
Only because I see on the one salary ordinance previous, it says preseason $22.66 an hour, and then season is $5,050. And I did sign off on a voucher for $5,050 already for preseason. I don't know if that's a reverse there, I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, what do you have? There's-
If you look at the past salary ordinance, it says
Okay.
summer director preseason $22.66 an hour. Then it says season $5,050. I've already signed off on a voucher for $5,050.
So 5,000 for the season is a flat rate?
I don't know if that's a flat rate or,
Is that what the?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, I've
When did that
read-
voucher come in, Judy?
through payroll.
Can we pull the voucher and give this information to you? So it's accurate?
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me, so I can't.
Pull the voucher, okay, and pull everything paid to date to that individual. Because again, I don't think we would budget it one way and then pay it out a second way. I don't understand why we would do that.
Well, we wouldn't
My
do it.
concern, I'm sorry,
No,
my
I mean-
concern is that, are we recording his hours? And he's sending a voucher in at the end for the pre, or for the post-season, or the
Well, the
in-season?
vouchers that I have seen come to about 60 hours a pay period.
60 hours of pay period.
I think it's over a 2-week period, I believe. I think that's about it. I mean, I could pull them also if you want.
And is 60 hours 2 weeks or 1 week?
I think it's 2 weeks.
So it's 30 hours a week?
But I could pull them.
Well, let's pull them
Well, let's
verify.
pull them and see what they look like,
Okay.
please. And then,
But if we've paid, if the 5,050 is for the season, and we've paid it, then I don't know if there's a need to make any change, because the individual has been paid for...
The allocated amount, but let's verify it, make sure.
Okay.
the season's over, right?
It is.
So we can reevaluate that particular line item in next budget. I don't know why we're doing it now.
Well, if he's just working the summer,
5 weeks, right?
5 weeks, so
Summer.
maybe it's 60 hours a week then. I don't know.
Well,
There's also
I'm
a
not
lot
sure.
of before,
Before and after, maybe?
definitely before setting up the program and all like that.
Which is the pre.
That's
Just the
the
preseason.
pre stuff, right?
All right, so let's see what it is. We meet in 2 weeks.
Okay. You want to pass this so the township clerk's okay, or we want to table the whole thing and wait till it's...
Why don't we table it and wait?
Table, because it doesn't,
We'll just have to do a second one.
Just table it. My suggestion is to table.
All right, so
You can take a
we're
roll call if you want.
going to table 19-18. There's no reason to take a roll
Is
call.
that okay if you want to table this until we get
More information.
more information on this one?
Sure, if you want.
Okay. Consent agenda. All the following items have been determined to have unanimous consent to council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution number 19-252, governing body certification of the annual audit. Resolution number 19-253, authorized submission of Chapter 159 budget amendment for Open Space Trust Fund for construction of bocce ball court fiscal year 2018. Resolution number 19-254, authorized shared service agreement with the County of Bergen, intersection of Pascack Road and Washington Avenue. Resolution number 19-255, authorized refund of recreation fees for lacrosse registration Anita Dakic in the amount of $145. Resolution number 19-256, authorized refund balance of engineering escrow monies, Block 3209, Lot 1, 574 Cross Street in the amount of $267.50. Resolution number 19-257, authorized refund balance of engineering escrow monies, Block 2413, Lot 1, excuse me, 810 Manhattan Avenue in the amount of $442.25. Resolution number 19-258, authorized refund balance of engineering escrow monies, Block 2303, Lot 12, 490 Ridgewood Boulevard North in the amount of $444.75. Resolution number 19-259, authorized refund tax payment due to successful county tax board judgment, Block 1102, Lot 7.01, 1160 Washington Avenue in the amount of $4,649.59. Can we remove 19-255, please?
That's what I was going to say.
And can we remove, well, I have questions on 254. but-
254?
254 also?
Yes.
All right, so roll call for everything else but 254 and 255.
So moved.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion? Sorry, sir.
Second.
Second. Roll call?
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSenza?
Yes. Discussion on 19-255, 254, Mr. Ullman?
Well, before we do that, for 255, we're just pulling it so they could recalc it?
They got to recalculate, so 255 is just,
25.
so we're gonna, 255 is not gonna get passed tonight until they take out the service fee. So you wanted 254 pulled, Mike?
Yes.
We'll just vote on 255 now?
There's nothing to vote on.
Oh,
We're
just pull-
We're just
okay.
pulling it.
It's got to be recalculated,
Right.
correct? And then redone at the next meeting?
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess, do we have from our engineer in the third whereas, recommendation the township has confirmed the township is willing to assume performance and cost responsibilities, items 1 through 22 in subsection B. Do we know, has that been quantified at this point?
It has been, all items 1 through 22.
Excuse me?
We have verified items 1 through 22 are accurate with our negotiations with the county.
But do we know what,
The number.
do we know what the amount is?
Well, we don't know the exact numbers. For example, police overtime, we can't determine as of yet, but that would be our responsibility. Purchase for easements, again, unknown at this time, as well as any upgrades that we insist upon as far as pavers or permanent generators or, light specs that might be outside of the standard in the contract.
But we have the $400,000 ordinance, which we already took as design services out of, Mike.
Yeah, so how much do we have left?
350, I think their proposal was 46,000, correct?
Sounds right,
Mr.
yes.
About that, I
Yeah.
think I'm in the ballpark. So we have 354,000 left in that ordinance?
About that.
About that, right, Judy?
I was looking at it today.
So I guess my question is, do we know if that is going to be sufficient? Because every one of these has a cost associated with it. I mean, basically. And, what is our appetite? I mean, clearly we want
Well,
this done.
one is included in his scope. We already have that. 2 is included in the scope, except for the cost to acquire the land.
Oh, well, no, I understand that, but, so, okay,
No, but I'm just saying, 1 is included in their scope. They already performed that.
yes.
2 is included in their scope. We don't have the acquisitions yet quantified, the dollar amounts. 3 is included, 4 is included, 5 is included. The only thing, like Mr. Tovo said, we don't know is, I don't foresee us adding decorative pavers to the project, so we wouldn't have that cost.
So 5, prepare and submit plans and application fees?
That's in his scope, to what, Division of Soil Erosion Sediment Control.
But we don't know the cost of the fee.
It's typically, it's gonna be in $500 range, $700 range possibly, Mike? No, it's not an expensive application.
Okay.
Be responsible for restoration, modification, removal of any appurtenances located within the easements, landscaping, planters, walls, fences. I mean, we're in the public right of way, so shouldn't be much to do about that at all.
Utilities, fire hydrants, monitoring wells. I mean, again, I just,
Yeah, no, I understand your question. I'm just trying to,
there's a cost there's an unknown cost at this point for those, to do those.
well, utilities is being done by public service. Mr. Tovo had a meeting with them on Tuesday, correct?
Correct.
There's no cost associated with that at this point in time.
There is not.
Fire hydrants?
I don't believe there are any fire hydrants in the vicinity.
None impacted.
How about the wells?
The wells, if they are impacted, is going to be done by the owner of the wells. We would never touch them.
A very slim chance that would occur. Based
But
on
if
where
it does, they would be responsible to do it.
They would. Our biggest unknown here is going to be the police overtime.
That's your biggest thing, is you don't know how
It is.
much police you're gonna need. But you had brought up that they're gonna use the lower cost for this project, correct?
Correct. And based on the timing of
Trees,
the-
Mike, we don't have any shade trees for number 11. We're not using decorative traffic lights. We're not gonna make them black or brown or any enhanced sidewalks. We're not gonna make them colored, right? I don't foresee us doing any of that.
The only cost I foresee would be the cost of a backup generator to run the light in the event of a long-term outage.
We don't have a backup generator?
It wouldn't tie into the existing.
But the proposed system, it would.
This would be one dedicated to that light and would kick on automatically. It's a good investment.
So the signaling equipment, they pay for it?
Yes.
Okay, so.
And
I
they
know
own it.
They own it.
They own it.
We pay the electric bill for it.
The brakes, it's on their dime.
Yes.
So, I know these are, well, it's signing and striping, it doesn't have everything, but.
What do you mean it doesn't have everything?
In terms of signals. So there was a question about signals at the firehouse, additional signals to assist with trafficking or traffic control.
Well, Mike, the signals are shown.
I didn't see them.
You see those lines with the arrows on them? Each one of those arrows is a signal head pointing in the direction of traffic. So if you look at sheet 2.
Sheet 2.
Right, if you look at the top of the sheet, you see those 3 arrows going one way and the 1 arrow going one way. So that arrow is a street light facing traffic going to Westwood, and the other ones are facing going toward the Parkway.
Where did you get this?
No.
On the plan sheets that we've emailed to everybody.
Oh, I was supposed to print it out?
Oh, I guess you could have,
Okay,
yes.
sorry.
Here, Art.
If you look at sheet 2,
Come over there? I come over there.
if you see,
These
see this right here?
Yes.
That's the base to the light. That's the arm going across. And each one of those is a red, green, yellow arrow.
No.
There's
So-
the tree houses.
There was a discussion that
Yes.
there would be
season.
2 trucks exiting signs,
You
yes.
need to get a little
lighting.
property over here.
I thought it was more substantial than that for,
They didn't seem to think they needed more than that.
Right here.
okay.
But they will be able to
There's that
hit the
guy,
remote
yes.
and turn the light green but that's done by
And that's for, but that's for the main intersection.
Correct.
So in front of the firehouse,
There'll be 2 signs on opposite sides of the road that says trucks exiting, which they'll have a remote for.
and that's the extent that there's not gonna be a
No.
controlled, like a red, yellow.
No, there will be. There'll be flashing beacons on both sides of the driveway that'll say trucks exiting when flashing, and they'll be able to turn the light to get the light to move also.
At the intersection.
Yes.
But just, there won't be a traffic light in front of the firehouse.
There'll be 2 side lights that just say trucks, when flashing, trucks exiting. Right, Mr., that's what we had talked about, Mr. Tovo, a while
Oh,
ago.
absolutely, I just couldn't remember if it was under the firehouse or the intersection.
It's one of them got it. It's they're 17,000, they're 2 solar powered signs, so they're
If I
not,
recall, Mr. DeSanto was covered by Mr. Connolly, so I believe it's part of
of the,
the firehouse.
correct.
Okay. Can we do, can we talk about the plans?
Wasn't the, I don't know. We want
Well,
the
we're being
engineering.
asked to, they're asking about, they want our, consideration will be given to municipal input in the design process. So you may have met, and other people may have met, but no one asked me, so I have a comment about it. So on plate 1, exiting Meiston and further to the west, Burke, is it possible to put a block, grid, not to block the box, because they cannot exit and enter their street when there is a backup?
Well, the answer is yes, we can. Whether we pay for it or the county pays for it is something we'd have to work out.
But it's just striping, it's not a huge cost.
Understood, but that's the answer.
Okay, so I would like to ask that, if we could. And maybe I don't see it, or I can't read this properly. Does this design assume that all of the routing of the bus will occur within the parking lot?
Yes,
So there's no bus stops on
that
this?
is correct.
Okay. That's plate 2. Plate 3,
The bus is gonna pull into the Seasons parking lot, we're calling it, the commuter
Except on
lot.
the return trip, wouldn't they be pulling off on the side of Washington?
that's later on. Yes, I think. We'll get
I'm saying not all drop-offs and pickups would be in the parking lot.
Okay. On plate 3, based on the contemplated emergency service building, does any of this design need to change?
No,
Okay.
doesn't affect it. The stripe out will be affected, that's about it.
That's, okay.
So that would need to move down further, but that hatched area, Mike, will just have to go down, they'll have to go more east.
Okay, but there's there's nothing physical that has
There's
to
no
move.
physical construction on that side of the road.
Okay. On plate 4,
Yep,
can you explain on the lower portion, there's this like U-shaped dip?
that's the sidewalk that goes around the tree at the condos.
It's there now?
Yes, it exists now, you gotta walk all the way around the tree.
Okay.
When you walk it, you'll see, when you drive by, you'll see.
That's the sidewalk.
That's the sidewalk, yeah, that's just the sidewalk.
Yeah. The tree's gone, I think.
Yeah, I think the
The
tree
tree's
may.
gone a long time ago.
But the sidewalk is still,
Remains.
we should put another tree.
For plate 5, so this, to Mr. Tovo's point, for return trips from New York, they are going to be coming and the buses will be dropping off on Pascack Road. Is that your understanding?
It is.
So I guess I just don't understand what all of these design elements are. So this crosshatch, and then we have a left turn the Seasons, we have a right turn into Jefferson, or, excuse me, a left turn into Jefferson. This is in the north to south travel lane? Or is that on the,
Well, one's on the north-south, one's on the south-north, Mike, one's on the opposite. You know, if you're coming south down Pascack, you have a dedicated lane to make the turn onto Jefferson.
okay, yes.
And if you're heading north, you have a dedicated lane to pull in, so through traffic can continue past you while you're waiting to get across traffic to get into the parking lot or to get onto Jefferson.
Okay, so where would the bump out be for the bus stop then? Because didn't they talk about having to reclaim some land?
No, that was for sidewalk, that wasn't for a bump out.
Not a bump out, a bump in.
I would request maybe we discuss that in a closed session because it has to do with property acquisition.
Yeah, I think we have two issues going on here. Number one, the exact location has not been identified or approved by DOT, and depending on where that location is, there would require action first an executive before we can move forward.
Okay.
Just trying to be careful here.
So this does not reflect the bus stop, although there will be a bus stop somewhere here. It's contemplated.
I don't have my copy in front of me, but there are things on there that would be subject to change.
Northbound or southbound, Mike?
Northbound.
Northbound.
So when they're coming in from the city and they
Yes.
make the turn,
Yes.
they're going to have to stop at some point on Pascack Road.
They stop at Lee right now, which is at the top of your sheet, where it's cut off,
Well, it's on page 6.
opposite Northgate.
Yes,
It's on page 6, yeah.
yes,
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at this.
but it's not there now. Okay.
Just out of fairness here, there's still work to be done with DOT and with the bus company. Those talks will, bring us closer to a final design, but right now, this is what we have to work with. And whatever that final design is, will be very close to what you're looking at today.
Okay. And when, or how do we get updates on costs as they become finalized?
Well, I think it's fair that once we get into this project, things like police overtime and other costs should be reported monthly to council, so I think we keep it on the tracker, perhaps with a breakdown of 3 or 4 major categories.
Okay.
I think our next big cost, Mike, to answer your question to the best possible, is acquisition of land.
Okay.
And then the other biggest cost is going to be the police overtime for police traffic directors. I think those are the two major outstanding costs right now, right, Mr. Togo, that we foresee?
I would agree.
'Cause we're not doing stamp pavers, we're not doing any, it's not gonna be, it's gonna be a pretty intersection, but not, we're not doing pavers and decorative streetlights or anything.
The basic intersection
It's a
of
basic
traffic.
Correct.
Based on our on-site meeting last week, there's a good possibility if it moves as planned, we may reduce a lot of that police overtime based on when the poles would be
Located now.
Correct.
And just one last question. The chief, the police, the fire chief, last meeting spoke of the need to do a diesel generator because the cost to run gas was too high. But if this is all going to be ripped up, does that cost go down and should it be contemplated?
No, it doesn't go down.
Doesn't go down?
Is it the piping that?
It's the physical construction from PSE&G's labor that cost, that's gonna be a cost.
Running
It's
a
the
2-inch
$60,000 cost.
An inch gas line or a 2-inch?
I think he said he needed 2-inch.
Ooh, for the whole place?
No, for the generator only. That would
Just
be
for the generator?
Yeah.
Okay.
How much is
I think he said it was 60,000. right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the question regarding the funding
The
of it.
chief said we had to go with diesel generator versus a natural gas generator because they had to run a new 2-inch line up from the intersection to the firehouse in order to run the generator. It was a $60,000 PSE&G bill or something.
And my question was, since the whole intersection is going to be ripped up, is there a benefit to doing it if, everything's going to be torn up and there might be equipment here and things of that nature.
Well, I think number one, the original estimates to put in the gas generator were based on a FEMA project. And the scope of that project has changed, so there's still some questions to be answered there. But at the end of the day, they are better off in many regards in keeping the diesel.
Yeah, and not to speak for PSE&G, but probably the ripping up is the least expensive cost. It's when you're down in the trench and doing all the piping and like that.
Okay.
Let me understand, Mr. Jovel, and it doesn't have to do with cost. What is the, and I'm not familiar with generators, what's the benefit of having diesel over gas?
Believe it or not, gas would not be considered to be a reliable source. Diesel would be. If you go to any 24-hour community, no, I shouldn't say any, I'm sorry, but most 24-hour communication centers that cover large areas, they're powered by or backed up by diesel-powered generators.
Because you have a major fuel source right there at the generator in a 275-gallon tank.
And we have priority refueling through the county.
Yeah. Okay. And gas lines can be damaged by a natural disaster.
So the reason this is on for tonight is the county board of freeholders voted for it, and they need this is the step that never got authorized years ago that held up the whole project. So
understood.
We need to proceed so we can keep the project moving and get funded for 2020, because if we don't process this, we won't make the budget again, and we'll delay the light another year.
Let's vote on this one right now.
Yes.
Maybe 10 years for this.
So motion to, it's 19-254. Motion to adopt ordinance 19-254.
So moved.
Resolution, excuse me. Pass resolution 19-254. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call?
Councilman Cascio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes.
Thank God.
Adjournment to conference agenda. Motion.
Hallelujah.
Motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be September 3rd, 2019, beginning at 7:30 p.m. Moving on to conference agenda. You want to take a 5-minute break, gentlemen?
I was just going to ask, yes, please.
We'll take a 5-minute break,
I don't know
ladies
how
and
you're
gentlemen.
holding out. I couldn't make it.
Tracker?
Yes, sir. To expedite matters, I was pointing out things that have changed from our last meeting. Intersection wall has changed, already been covered by the earlier report.
Yep.
88 curb cuts, PO has been issued to Reggio Construction. Basketball courts, there's been a slight delay there to ensure that we address the drainage issue there. That would only negate our hard work. We're almost done with that. Should be out to bid, or bid package prepared by the middle of next week.
May I say that I met with the engineer on Friday at the basketball court, sir, and he finished his notes regarding trees and drainage.
Is that Gardner?
That was at Memorial.
Memorial.
He was also working on Gardner.
Okay.
That is correct, but both
So
of them
that's
will be
not
done and
bad.
ready to go to bid, but
Yes.
Memorial was really the whole.
Okay.
Grant Writer has earlier
Mr.
reported.
Jovel, before we move, did you get a chance to call Sealmaster for the court at Clark?
I have not.
Okay.
Is there an expiration on that, or
What's that?
there's no expiration on that award? I mean,
I don't know.
okay.
I don't know. I would just contact and tell them we'd still like to, cash in.
Okay. Grant Writer earlier reported that meetings with department heads have occurred. Town hall light repair is not a change, but a confirmation that it will be done in September of this year. And my apologies on the last item, the flags we have in our possession, but inadvertently the poles were not ordered, or there was something lost in translation. So they are ordered, they will be in.
So do you have the list of the, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yes, sir, I am.
For the grant writer, Do you have a list of the projects that are being prioritized?
It would be fair to say yes, but we have a list of projects. Our next step in our next meeting is to prioritize them by department.
I'm sorry, by department?
By department. Easier to track them that way.
As I said, Mike, in my monthly report, he's met with all the department heads, and now he's summarizing their requests, and we'll see what grants are out there based on their needs.
Anything else for the project tracker, gentlemen?
No? I can think of.
Under council, ordinances and legislation, table of organization of the police department. Mr. Ullman, you wanted that on the agenda?
I don't know if I did. I don't know if did I make that request?
Yes.
I did?
Probably go back about a few weeks ago.
It's tough when you have 3 weeks in between meetings, you forget. So,
We could table it.
Can you take it off, or
We can take it
you wanna
off.
table it?
No, I thought it was, I didn't know.
Okay.
It's not me.
All right, no problem. We'll take it off. Fire department bylaws, gentlemen, we're given the new changes to the fire department bylaws. There's a couple changes made. We need to, if we're okay with them, if we can adopt them.
What were the changes and were they significant, Mr. Buscemi?
I think the only change that was made was the age of the life member
Yes.
was changed. Correct, Mr. Mayor? I believe that's the only change.
That's my understanding from them also, yes.
Okay, what do we have to do to approve this?
We just need to take a vote.
As is, or how do we do that? Or maybe formalize
So
it?
it's in G, it's in G, it's in,
I think you should have a resolution, not just a vote.
We put it on the next meeting?
Just so there's a record, because that's what happens typically. There should be, not just a vote, there should be a resolution.
I think there's, if we could take a vote.
Take a vote.
Take a vote, and then you can prepare the resolution and we'll confirm it.
Absolutely.
But I'd like to take a vote
Yes.
Like a straw poll now?
No, we'll take a
You
vote.
can take a vote and confirm the resolution.
And then we'll do a
I just-
confirming
I just- The only reason I wanted is that
G.
over the years, you know, people have said, what's the law, what's.
It gets
what's
forgotten.
law? You know, there's no paper trail.
Mike, G is the change, it's 25 years of service and 55 years of age. It used to be 65 years of age. And I guess it's the,
Inactive life member?
yes,
resigned?
inactive life member resigned.
65 to 55?
Yes.
So it's 55.
That's the
It's
only-
changed already, yes.
It's the only change.
Right, Mr. Mayor? I believe that's the only significant change we were told.
Correct.
So the only significant or the only change?
The only change, yeah. Well, it's a major change. It's 10 years, you know, it's.
No, I know, I'm saying, to your point, are there others that aren't as significant but still are being done?
I was told that was the reason this was submitted, was the 55 to 65.
That's my understanding also.
Do you know why?
I believe there's been a lot of members that have received that and did not meet the age. And
it's also to bring us in line with other fire departments in the area. They were doing a comparison, and you know, so that we were out of line on that one, obviously by a lot of years, not by just 1 or 2.
so I believe people have gotten that inactive life member resignation before the age of 65. So in theory, you know, we needed to recodify this to make it so if they did get it before 65 and they were 55, they'd be eligible.
And does this have any impact to any of the calculations that we do? Any, you know, I'm assuming no for LoSAP, but.
No, no for LoSAP. There's not many people that are eligible for this. I think right now there's one person that's eligible for it, that's it.
What about clothing allowance?
They still get their clothing allowance, so they would still receive their clothing allowance.
I could be an overage member.
What's that?
I said I could be an overage member. I'm good. I got that ARP card the other day.
Me too.
Keeping it away.
Being overage.
I'm not ready for it yet.
If we take a poll tonight, take a vote tonight, Ken, and then we'll confirm resolution next.
And confirming resolution will only be
All right.
confirming the vote. It's not reassessing.
Yep.
Kind of like, you know, planning board a lot of times.
Yes, exactly.
So we take do I have a motion to fire department bylaws? Do I have a second? Roll call?
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Owen?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes, thank you. Commuter parking, Sue Wachowski had this on the agenda. She's gonna give us a quick little rundown.
Yes, just real quick, Cornelia put this together for us so that this way it shows you what we were doing, what we don't do, what we should be doing. There was a big discussion on this a couple of years ago, and a lot of things that we've implemented with doing the insurance, the licenses, people coming in and physically showing it to us the first year really went very well received, nobody argued the point. You know, there's certain things we don't have a limit of 65 and you get put on a waiting list anymore because we tell people it's a first come, first serve. So we just want to streamline the ordinance to do what we actually do now, and it really works well. We have no complaints from anybody on how we do things. So things that they come in with, you know, we tell them you can do it via mail unless you have a change of an insurance company. You know, you need to show us that kind of stuff.
So is it basically all the bold underlined stuff you want to change?
All the underlined is like we would like to have removed, and anything that's just underlined we would like to have added. So see, there's a lot more bold coming out. I spoke to Mr. Pollard.
Oh, wait, it's all bold and underlined in my copy, so I don't know.
on the second page.
Wait. Sue,
Yeah, but-
all of it's emboldened.
And that's what I said, it's all,
All of it's underlined.
Just the bold is gonna be removed. Underline is to be added.
oh, okay.
What if it's bold and underlined?
Removed.
There's some of it that's underlined without being bold, Mr. Cumming,
Yes.
if you look very closely.
Yeah, like B, number B on the first page. Copy of the license, proof of insurance, and registration of vehicle, maximum 2 vehicles. That we'd like to
Add.
add in. Number B under there, where it says number of cars we want to take out. That's the original one.
All right,
Just changing it around.
so,
I'll give you, how about I give you a draft for the next one, and you can take a look at what it looks like.
No, you don't need to do that over again.
Sure.
Is this your,
well, we'd have to have Mr. Pollard review it, right? And
Yeah.
then we'd have it for the next meeting.
is this for the good of your, makes it easier for you to process these things?
It's more efficient.
Good.
Because we have, you know, we're taking out the fluff and just sticking to the facts.
Okay.
You know, asking for the proof of who they are, what they are, you know, their, everything is.
It's better for you and it makes it
Well,
better?
better for the town, I think.
Great.
I will send it over to Mr. Pollard, and ask him to take a look at it.
I'm okay with the changes.
Mike, any comments on the changes? You okay with it? All right, Mr.
Yes.
Pollard, if you could prepare us for the next meeting? Thank you.
Thank you.
Exit auditing meeting and results, Mr. Bruno had asked this be discussed. He was just interested if we had performed exit audit meetings. Mr. Tovo, if we had started to conduct those as employees are leaving?
Before Mr. Tovo answers that, can I make a suggestion that everything Bob wanted on here, we table, because since he wanted it and he's not here, and I don't know if he watches the meetings when he's not here or not, but I hate to go through these things twice.
He just asked me to review them, I know.
Oh.
Yeah, he called me and asked me, so I'm gonna just.
I'm sorry, but the question would read like the exit audit when the auditors were finished. and
No,
we had
no,
a
he's
final
talking
meeting.
about exit audit for
Employees.
for employees.
Well,
We
I didn't take it
document.
as that. I took it as an.
No, he
audit.
took it at, no, he took it as employee exit
And
audits.
then he chose his, oh, okay. He
Yeah, it
put
was,
different words.
I'm not
I
sure
apologize.
when appropriate they're conducted.
okay. Electric sign with landscaping, I know the sign in front was landscaped, I don't know what, right, I believe they planted all flowers around it, the DMF.
They did.
The intersection we discussed in detail.
What more did they want on the sign?
I'm just,
No clue.
he asked to be brought up. It was landscaped, I saw it with my own eyes.
It's
both
got
of them.
flowers, yeah. Do you want more?
We'll have to
I'll
ask Mr.
design
Bruno.
something.
Yeah.
I'm
I think
cheap and-
originally,
I'm cheap and available.
But I think originally, I think originally,
Can you plant them too?
I think
Do the sign
originally-
at Northgate, take a look and come up to the pool.
well, 2 years ago, we had talked about replacing the signs out there, which we still haven't done.
I found the information again today, which I gave to
Okay.
Mr. Sears at least twice.
And we were
On
gonna
the sign?
landscape some of those areas with, not just
For
annuals.
the blue
with-
sign, yeah.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
done this year.
What's that?
Well, if we're talking about the signs, the township signs,
And I think the electric sign,
No, we had talked, 2 years ago, we had talked about putting some permanent landscaping around the bulletin board sign, let's call it, the e-sign, the
Oh, okay.
electronics, and it's never been done. We did plant some pretty annuals around it and stuff, but we had talked about doing some, shrubs
We
with some
had to
shrubs.
cut that one tree down because it had died.
Correct, and we were gonna replace that and do some,
So next year we can look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just like to work with the holiday lighting committee on that also, because they decorate that area, so let's make sure we're in sync with that.
Oh, so we'll do little Christmas tree shrubs.
There you go.
There you go. The intersection we discussed, the DMF progress, he just wanted to know what the status was of the DMF.
No
and-
change.
No change, okay, we're still waiting on the engineer to come back with,
Correct.
all right.
So
COA fee,
Boswell has this?
Boswell has this in conjunction with the administration, but there are things specific to the engineer as far as size and calculations and so forth that we're still waiting for an answer on. Bottom line is, what's the bare minimum amount of room we can get away with? For temporary.
okay. COA fees, just wanted to know the status, if he can have an update for the next meeting of where the COA fees stand. So I don't know who would prepare that.
There's something in the,
Yes,
there was something in the audit about that, wasn't
correct,
there?
that's what, yeah. Overspending procedures is typical, what he's always asked for. Mike, you had asked about year-to-date financials?
Yeah, so, I guess we received one set of financials, I believe it was June year to date, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just wondering, are we going to get a regular update on those?
You are. Ms. Curran finished her review. The mayor and I haven't had a chance to review. Once we have a chance to do that, it will go out to council.
And just one additional update. I spoke to Judy, sorry, Bob, it was today, I didn't inform you. What we kind of said is, we'll give you the year-to-date, when the meetings, we give you the bill list, and that way it's all encompassing. She will give it to Bob and I either the Tuesday or Wednesday before the council meeting, so we can review it and give you comments on anything that we see that's out of line before you receive it.
You're gonna do this monthly or quarterly?
Monthly.
Monthly?
Yes.
Ooh. Is that a strain? Is it too much? No?
No.
Okay. Good,
And-
Judy. Good job.
The question I had is, are those reports available from Edmunds electronically? Or some derivative of them? Because it's honestly a bit laborious to go through
Yeah.
90 pages.
You can only do a PDF file, I don't know.
Well,
That would be such a big file, I don't know if Optimum would carry it.
if it's a readable, not a readable, I don't know the right term, but certain PDFs can be brought in, imported into Excel.
So,
So.
I don't know
would
if they,
just-
I don't know
sure.
if they let the detailed budget part of that into Excel. There's so much information. Maybe a condensed might be possible.
Okay, I mean, I would just ask if you and the administration could evaluate getting those reports, soft copy, since it makes the analysis much easier.
You mean a hard copy?
Soft, electronic copy,
Oh, electronic copy, okay.
a soft copy.
But I'm saying that you want it in an Excel format, is what you're trying to
No,
do.
you could, if it's a PDF, you could send me the PDF and I'll see if I can pull it into Excel.
Do you have Excel on your machine? You should be able to open an XLS file.
Yes, but this is gonna be a .pdf file.
But can you take the PDF and make it to an Excel?
I believe it, depending on how the PDF is published,
Published.
you can.
But even with the major detail, like with all the, you know what I mean, when you do the detail, you think you can do that?
Can we call Emmett tomorrow to find out what we can
Yeah.
do and we'll
Yeah.
get back to you?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah. You see what we could do.
Anything on miscellaneous, Shulman, anything?
I do. Mr. Tova, do we have a deputy treasurer?
I have to recheck titles, but George, either the treasurer or deputy treasurer.
Okay.
I thought of that.
I mean, the person that signs the bill list, it signs the deputy treasurer. Is she hired as such? Is that her in her job description?
Yeah, treasurer or deputy are one of our titles, yes.
Or which one is it? Who's the treasurer?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember if she's titled deputy treasurer or treasurer. And tax collector.
And tax.
Well, she'd be deputy.
All right, gentlemen, do we want to take a motion to go into closed? I know Mr. Bruno's not here. You know, he had a lot to, wanted to discuss, and he had business to be on, so he's not here. So do we want to go into closed, or do we not want to go into closed until we have a full house?
If we have stuff to discuss, let's discuss it.
Mr. Allman, you want to go into closed, or you want to wait?
I mean, I know he certainly has some comments on this, so, I mean, I'm happy to wait 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
we certainly can. I mean,
Okay, so we're not going to go into closed then tonight. It's okay with you, gentlemen. Just a quick PSA, August Town Hall summer hours, new summer hours run through Labor Day, September 2nd. The new hours are as follows: Monday, 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. New hours pertain specifically to the following departments: the clerk, Board of Health, registrar, CFO, tax collector, purchasing, building and zoning, planning and zoning. Senior bus, starting Tuesday, September 3rd, the senior bus will be picking up residents that are on the ShopRite list on Tuesdays instead of Mondays, since ShopRite offers a 10% discount to seniors on Tuesdays. If anyone would like to add it to the list, please call 201-664-3268. Annual Senior Citizens Picnic. The Department of Human Services will hold their annual Senior Citizen Picnic Thursday, September 5th from 10 to 3 at Van Zandt County Park in Paramus. For more information, please call Senior Services at 201-336-7416. 2019 Flu Clinic, sponsored by the Township of Washington and Northwest Bergen Regional Health Commission, will be held on Friday, September 27th at the Municipal Building from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Email notices. Residents are invited to sign up for email notices by texting Township to 22828 and entering your email address. That's all I have. Motion to adjourn.
before we do,
Oh, sorry,
just,
Mike.
there was a memo about work being done.
Yes, on the Garden State Parkway overpass.
So is there anything that we need to concern ourselves with?
Overpass work?
The overpass work on the Parkway?
Has to do with that? I put it
Because
in.
the council has to do?
Yeah, the council. I put it
No.
as just an FYI, but I didn't know, just seeing what was going
It's being
on.
worked out right now between the engineer, the police, and the contractor.
Which overpass?
Glenn.
East Glen.
East Glen.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I read that thing.
Maybe they can cut down more.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.